The peaceful life of humanity is under a fierce threat from the zombie labyrinth controlled by the death god's skeleton. The problem with this labyrinth, the number of undead summoned by the death god's skeleton, keeps growing, spilling out beyond the kingdom's borders. The kingdom is forced to send out squads of knights to purge this final horror, but they're hopeless. None have even managed to graze a single bone of the death god's skeleton. Some lose arms, others lose legs, and a few unlucky youths even swallow knives, collapsing right on the spot. How can they fight when they're weighed down by such burdens? The church decides to send out their trump card to slay this ultimate horror. And he arrives, a warrior, radiating unmatched valor, carrying those same burdens, but wielding power greater still. That warrior's name is Segura. The moment Segura steps forward, the death god's skeleton unleashes deadly beams directly at him. But Segura effortlessly slices through the attacks, closing the distance with his swift magic. Before long, the massive dry bones clash violently, a symphony of steel and soul. The first strikes are brutal, direct hits aimed to shatter the enemy. Every fierce slash from Segura is met with an impenetrable defense by the death god skeleton, who retaliates with a flurry of deadly throwing knives. As the battle rages, the death god skeleton summons lost souls from across the continent into a swirling soul orb. Then, a grotesque undead dragon emerges, lunging straight at Segura's heart. Yet, even this monstrous beast only manages to challenge Segura briefly before he cleaves it in two. Such is the bitter fate of a hero's relentless struggle against impossible odds. While Segura strains every nerve against this skeletal overlord, his comrades lounge back watching like it's a movie, occasionally doubting whether he's being utterly crushed by the death god skeleton. The final boss is pushed back repeatedly by Segura, so it summons an entire battalion of skeletal warriors to overwhelm him. In this desperate hour, Segura's allies still choose to trust him rather than lend a hand. Memories flood back Segura's childhood, stolen from him by a crazed madman who murdered his family. Rescued by knights, he pledged himself to the church, bearing a unique gift called the demonic eye, granting him the power to see souls. Most who possess this eye hide within the church for life. Some, like the death god's skeleton, exploit it to toy with lost spirits. But Segura alone stands to fight for humanity's hope. Back in the thick of battle, Segura refuses to waste time fending off the endless undead. He summons a fiery orb, hurling it onto the cavern's roof. Massive stones tumble down, crashing onto the final horror below. After countless clashes and near rebounds, Segura uncovers the enemy's true form, a giant skeletal frame housing a brain protected inside a cage. Though both share the demonic eye, their views on death couldn't be more opposed to the death. God's skeleton souls are mere playthings. As both warriors unleash their decisive strikes, destiny for humanity hangs in the balance. The skeletal behemoth conjures a unique, mysterious spell etched with strange patterns. Segura, never having seen anything like it, steels himself and plunges his ultimate technique through the deadly magic. After a savage battle between the kingdom's mightiest forces, a boy awakens in an alleyway, confused and wounded, blood smeared across his neck. He looks around, eyes brimming with tears as a dim cityscape unfolds before him. Who is he? Where is this place? What path lies ahead for this boy caught in a world torn between darkness and hope? His journey has just begun, echoing the eternal struggle to protect what we hold dear, even when the weight of fate threatens to crush us. If you've ever felt powerless, like Segura, crushed beneath impossible odds, take a breath and remember sometimes the strongest light shines from the smallest spark. Sometimes the greatest courage is to stand alone and fight for those who cannot. And if you find yourself lost between choices between hope and despair, may this story remind you that even the faintest light can guide the way. Thanks for journeying through this epic battle with me. The seasoned assassin couldn't believe his eyes. This young boy was still alive. He signaled his comrades to stand down. After all, their hit squad was like a well-oiled machine. Meanwhile, the reborn youth, Sho Jammer, was still unraveling the mysteries around him, from alien tongues to the glowing screens that didn't need magic. But what truly captured his heart was the serene peace of this world paired with the innocent smiles of its children. Longing for a future as bright as this in his old world, Sho pondered quietly. Suddenly, two men approached, their hands resting gently on his shoulders, checking on his condition. Thanks to a downloaded Google Translate in his mind, Sho began to understand this world's language. He even recalled his new name here, Sho Jammer. The men were about to call an ambulance to tend to the wound on his neck. But out of nowhere, a wild girl stormed in, kicking one officer square in the head before whisking Sho away like a whirlwind. Nearby, a dark-skinned man and a strikingly handsome gentleman observed the chaos but chose to stay silent. The hyperactive girl led Sho to a deserted alley and introduced herself as Misaki. A poignant fragment of memory flickered in Sho's mind. This eccentric girl was his friend here. Yet friendship took a twisted form when Misaki hoisted Sho upside down, by his legs, poking and prodding like an ostrich, examining a strange egg. She assured him he wasn't a ghost yet. His warmth against her chest proved he was still very much alive. To celebrate Sho's survival, Misaki decided to recut the wound on his neck with the same blade just to be sure. But with memories sharpening, Sho dashed away, determined to avoid another reincarnation at her hands. Sho found refuge in a quiet corner, plotting his next move. Here, magic was forbidden. One more fatal strike and the echo of goodbye would ring forever in his mind. Misaki, relentless, soon discovered his hiding spot. He barely dodged the knives she hurled his way, but her fury only fueled her excitement. Sho's body couldn't keep up with his instincts, making defense a desperate dance. This was the world Sho had longed to live in, yet he couldn't afford to zone out now. No more carefree moments. Wisdom whispered the best strategy was to run. But fate had other plans. A knife sliced deep into his calf. Summoning every ounce of will, Sho yanked the blade free, flinging it back at Misaki and sprinting away. For a seasoned assassin like her, encountering such a stubborn prey was unprecedented. Sho stumbled into a blood-stained room, an eerie chamber echoing with past horrors. The bloodthirsty girl followed, embedding another blade into his leg, sending him crashing to the floor. Misaki revealed this place as the execution zone, where gruesome human experiments birthed chilling ghost stories that kept townsfolk at bay. Here, Sho's demon power awakened, unveiling the sinister truths behind these atrocities. His demon bound to his soul would shadow him forever, no matter where he fled. Misaki's twisted talk of life grated on Sho's nerves. In response, he summoned a demonic arm, gifting her a gaping hole in the stomach. Back in his old world, the warriors still doubted whether the death god had truly fallen. Could it be that Sho himself was the reincarnation of this deity? Thanks to Misaki's relentless pursuit, Sho had unlocked the forbidden death magic. Now it was time to protect the peaceful life he'd yearned for since his past existence. But even the death god hadn't anticipated how fragile this world's inhabitants were, so easily distracted by trivial pleasures. Sho shivered as Misaki, the relentless assassin, closed in. No more crowing roosters. He couldn't afford another careless sound. His tragic past, the curse of the demon eye from birth, had cast him into endless battles. Born with the demon eye. Sho was sold by his own family to warlock mages in the kingdom, forced to wield soul-summoning magic. He endured countless brutal battles until his body was drained dry and the kingdom fell into ruin. Only then did he taste freedom. Rejecting meaningless wars, he retreated into the forest, seeking solitude. A few children and a kind girl accepted his frightening appearance. A tender love blossomed between this man and a skeletal figure. Yet the world demanded Sho become an assassin once more. Though unwanted, the church branded all those near the soul summoner as infected, snatching away his precious loved ones in cruel revenge. Sho spent centuries avenging friends lost to fanatic zealots dragged into labyrinthine prisons. Hiding in shadows and haunted by his own power, he inadvertently became a sea of undead. The death god's greatest wish was simple, a peaceful life. But he couldn't escape his fate alone. He awaited a worthy ally to awaken his reincarnation magic. Such opportunities were rare. Sho refused to die a meaningless death in this new world. Yet even he hadn't expected these fragile people to be as delicate as glass noodles. The burning question, why didn't this mad girl carry healing potions or magic? How could Sho explain to the men here that he was the victim, after gifting his enemy a donut-shaped wound and challenging a corpse to round 2? Feeling a bit silly for his own recklessness, Sho hadn't noticed the drone silently tracking his every move. This watcher reported to a woman named Carissa, sending clips for her review. Kuju also wanted to confirm if Sho was truly out of his mind or if Shinjuku itself had gone mad. Flashback to Misaki's childhood, a once innocent girl wrapped in a warm family embrace until a sudden assassin fell from the sky, leaving her parents riddled with bullet holes. After psychological recovery, Misaki transformed into the fierce warrior she was today. With Carissa's backing, she gained authority to torment that old assassin, teaching him a brutal lesson what it meant to face justice. And then he even dared to ask for a rematch with a corpse. Shishinden felt like a small-town river, lost in the madness of his own foolishness. Yet, he hadn't realized a drone had been tracking him since he arrived. Thinking his recklessness was just him playing too hard, he reported to Carissa and sent her a clip of the incident. Kuju wanted to confirm if he was truly overdosing on papaya leaves, or if Shinjuku City itself had gone insane. Misaki's past unfolded like a haunting shadow, once an innocent child wrapped in a warm family's embrace, until one fateful day a killer fell from the sky, leaving dozens of scars on her parents. After a stint in a psychiatric ward, Misaki transformed into the wild force she is now seeking out, that very assassin. With Carissa's protection, she wielded power to punish the murderer, teaching him the bitter taste of justice. As Misaki boasted with a grin, she hammered nails into the assassin's flesh, each pain chipping away his consciousness. She offered him one last chance at redemption, but this time he had to judge his own morality. Before he could spin his lies, Misaki silenced him with a brutal strike. Her eerie smile haunted the underworld, making even seasoned thugs shudder. After avenging Carissa's family, a new mission arrived. A boy's fate hung in the balance, testing if Misaki still held any humanity. True to her ruthless nature, Misaki executed the task with cold precision, her trademark savage smile never fading. Deep down, she feared that if she continued this path one day, she'd report back to her beloved boss and comrades, but for now she chose reincarnation. Just as she was about to test if her head or the ground was harder, a phone call interrupted, forcing her to postpone her trip to hell and track down her kin. Kuju's call wasn't to stop this wild spirit, but to warn her the target was still alive, strutting through the streets as if nothing had happened. So Misaki had to keep serving the capitalist machine, only to end up skewered by some bone-crushing tables. Slowly, she opened her eyes, not yet a ghost. Following Kuju's lead, Shishinden prepared for what came next. Picking up the call, Kuju's voice wasn't to stop this wild girl from chaos, but to reveal a shocking truth. Their supposed victim, executed by Saki, was alive and roaming the streets as if nothing had happened. This forced Saki to keep serving the capitalist machine, only to end up skewered by multiple enemies. Slowly, she opened her eyes, realizing she hadn't yet transformed into the undead ghost. Guided by Kudu the Reaper, priest's ritual promised success. Saki, the berserker killer, was revived, but disbelief made her dissect her own soul, a chilling act that caused Kudu's drone to freeze in awkward shock. It was all thanks to Kudu's magic bad luck and their boss, Kisa's arrival. She pressed the girl's face to her soul, brimming with life, and declared Saki was truly dead, now just a walking corpse. The stage was set for Kudu, the info broker, and Assassin's cleanup crew to report back. Kudu, a dealer of secrets and cleaner of crime scenes, was baffled by the bizarre case he'd never seen before. Kaya gathered the team to question the kid who had just taken down her subordinate and checked on Kudu's condition. But witnessing everything, Kudu seemed even more dazed than Kaya. The Reaper priest had even attempted to stitch Saki's stomach right before Kaya entrusted men, their disbelief hanging thick in the air. No one could grasp the priest's high-level illusions when he said he needed more magicians to perform some resurrection magic. Kaja's crew was lost. This magic talk sounded like a fantasy game. Only now did Kudu realize this rebirth world lacked such concepts, or if they existed only in games. The reincarnated young man was the first to wield magic here, so he shut off his spells and started mocking it all as mere psychological illusions. Of course, Kaja, a veteran in her field, wasn't fooled by this nonsense. The Reaper priest grew rough, forcing the group to release him. Using his bony hand, he pinned a bald man to the ground, pushing Kaya to request a private council to decide the fate of this Chinese mage. Both sides held their breath until suddenly Kudu flashed new intel about a recent fire. Hearing the children were involved, the young man sent his eye to spy. Though the eye was promptly sliced in two by Kaya's subordinates, the Reaper priest didn't want to harm them. His curiosity was all about the children trapped in the blaze, orphans tied to the dark underworld, mostly doomed much like the orange-haired kid from some forgotten leaf village. Memories stirred within him, awakening a desire to help these lost souls and test the mysterious young man's heart. Kaja assigned the task of guiding and monitoring the Reaper priest to the fire scene. Unlike ordinary people, he moved by clinging to terrain with skeletal arms. Finally arriving, he deployed his demonic eye to check if the children had perished. Then, with one bony hand, he launched himself into the fray, ready to confront the cruel fate that awaited those broken kids. This was no ordinary rescue. It was a baptism by fire for a soul haunted by a tragic past reaching out to the lost and broken. If you've ever felt powerless watching those you care for fall into darkness, take a breath and ask yourself, would you fight to save them, even when hope seems gone? In this fiery crucible, the line between mercy and vengeance blurs, and only the strongest hearts survive. The fire burned like a ghost fleeing an empty house, sending Kudura's blood pressure plummeting with fear, worried the media would catch wind of it. Amid the blaze, the souls of the children's parents stood guard, a silent circle of protection. Our protagonist summoned skeletal warriors to possess them, carrying the kids out through the window. In that fleeting moment, the children felt the last warmth of their parents' love before the flames consumed everything. An invisible hand gently cradled the children down to the rescue team. Below, mission accomplished. Photos of the fire at the Divine Spirit Hall had been snapped by local residents, stirring whispers. More puzzling was Kudura's unreadable expression about life itself, his attitude as mysterious as a girl's mood swings. Then, as everyone knows, Misaki snapped out of her daze and slipped back into her usual antics. The Divine Spirit Hall shared a quiet moment with Kaja, a little broken but seeking a new path, a roadmap to peace. First, money was essential. Peace never comes free. Then came the unique power of Divine Spirit Hall, a rare gem. Here, Carissa recruited the protagonist, gifting him the battle-crazed Misaki and Kuzu to support him. Misaki sat reviewing the latest footage from their new ally, Mazda, marveling at the wild scenes from the fire. Even while living under the same roof, disbelief lingered. Could this chaotic trio really coexist? Thus began the life of a lone necromancer and two unstable souls. Kuji wondered if this fragile mind could survive living with someone almost ready to ship her off to therapy. Beyond the excitement, Misaki showed no serious issues. Their three-person household belonged to Kaya. While chatting, Divine Spirit Hall thanked everyone for their help and returned to reading, sparking a flicker of worry. In Kudura, would he be the next to fall victim someday? QG began investigating the mysterious intentions of the wandering mage, but currently just dodged and weaved with the unlucky boy's family. Kaya even taught the Holy Mark bearer how to properly stir trouble. The family believed their son was travelling, receiving postcards monthly. Divine Spirit Hall studied this strange new world, uncovering wonders here wells were mythical beasts unlike the old world. Yet what haunted him most was the cult constantly banging on his door when he was just a giant skeleton, eager to duel. QG also wondered about the old world nickname for Divine Spirit Hall. Hearing that name, Misaki's eyes lit up. It was cool beyond measure. To achieve peace in legend first, Divine Spirit Hall had to escape the fate of a poor, miserable soul. Next, he had to convince the mission's client to assassinate the original owner of this body. Carissa couldn't reveal the client's identity, but promised not to accept any more such grim requests, easing Kuji's mind. QG doubted anyone crazy enough to target Divine Spirit Hall except Lemon. But his bigger fear was living with a fragile girl and a ghost boy under one roof. Luckily, the spirit of the unlucky boy had graciously accepted Misaki, residing inside Kudura's drone, explaining why he couldn't control it anymore. So after half a month's salary, Kyuji was left wary of Divine Spirit Hall's twisted view of life, treating human lives like toys, a mindset that kept him on edge around this peculiar kid. Just as he was scrambling for cash to escape poverty, a client asked Misaki to protect him from foreign assassins. She planned to refuse and hang out with the bony gang, But Divine Spirit Hall suddenly appeared and accepted the contract. He must have been desperate. The mission helped fend off a cold-blooded assassin gang led by Jimba, whom Misaki had recently silenced with a brutal iron rod for his poor morals. This group was chilling, kidnapping entire victim families for company. According to Kudura's intel, the assassins were holed up in an abandoned house. Misaki, recalling who hurt her grandparents, charged in like a runaway train. Luck smiled as the gang had been waiting since afternoon to ambush her. Two wielded iron rods swinging wildly, but Misaki's kicks knocked one out cold, blinded another, and sent others tumbling. Their clumsy retreat led to them tripping over each other repeatedly. The bruised-eyed thug barely revived before Misaki kicked him again. The last thug was barely conscious, unwilling to be a panda. But Misaki wasn't just reckless, she was deadly. Despite taking a few shots from behind Misaki, Rose counting her casualties, the shooter was the very man who commissioned the contract, the black-coated uncle cosplaying a hitman. He didn't expect Misaki to survive, but she was testing her newly enhanced immortal body. Now bullets couldn't touch her. Her power rivaled that of online monsters. Kudura called Divine Spirit Hall to ask how he knew the multi-level marketing thug was actually a murderer. It was all thanks to Divine Spirit Hall's demon eye, which showed him the children victimized by this man. The contract came from those poor kids, not some rural villain. Now it was time for the protagonist to teach these killers to cherish the future, the seedlings of hope. A giant hand erupted from the earth, crushing the assassin gang beneath it. Divine Spirit Hall refused any payment from the kids. This mission was partly revenge against evil. Back home, he admired Misaki's pure white soul as she checked her upgraded body. He was shocked by the fierce nature of girls in this world. Kudura, still puzzled by Divine Spirit Hall's view of life as a toy, asked him directly. To Divine Spirit Hall, toys bring joy to children, so he deeply values human life. This Chinese mage was in truth a rare Simonis, a belief that shifted Kudura's perspective. Finally, Kudura felt at ease and eager to forge friendship with Divine Spirit Hall. He reported back to Kaya, who promised not to accept any more assassination contracts on this kid. According to Kaja, those who commissioned the hit were soon to face justice. Their leader had mentioned the name Lemon before. The hunt was closing in. No, new subtitle segment here, continuation of previous. 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 Even as the undead Misaki embarks on a journey to reintegrate into society, she discovers a new power, the ability to evolve. It's as if this undead realm plays by its own wild rules. Meanwhile, Kaya stripped bare and honest chats with his two loyal subordinates. But trouble brews when the headhunter's call interrupts, sparking a rift so deep that Kaya severs ties, blaming Misaki's zombie state on this very incident, yet she clings fiercely to her fading humanity. Kaja senses chaos looming over the city's horizon. At a bar, a blonde-haired youth lounges, shooting the breeze with the bartender, until a careless swipe lands on a waitress's rear, lighting the fuse for a swift reckoning. The enforcers here grab him by the scruff, dangling him like a slab of beef in an open market. Back home, Kaja reveals the eerie truth about Misaki's undead form. She can now heal wounds by devouring flesh and even paralyze foes with a single bite, her saliva laced with a potent toxin. No sooner does Misaki hear this than she tests the bite on Kaja, then pleads with Kudu for just one loving nip. But fate has other plans. A rejected kiss leads to a harsh spanking, leaving Kaya knocked out in a corner, lost in wild visions of monstrous creatures. Among them, a mysterious bandaged figure who just destroyed Kaya's masterpiece before vanishing into the shadows. When Kaja steps in, the youth is ambushed by con artists, but swiftly dispatches them all with ruthless fists. He calls his lecherous blonde friend, hinting at a sizzling scandal unfolding at the undead group's base. Kudu's clan suspects the undead realm works on a decimal system, noting that beyond magic, these beings share strikingly similar appearances, an odd but fascinating clue. Though it sounds like a head-scratcher, Kaya, now free from paralysis, begins pondering this strange pattern. Even more shocking, those buried by Kaya last night are still alive, but under his mind control. The two drunk detectives from earlier experts in bizarre cases are on site investigating their presence, weaving deeper mystery into this tangled web. Detective Yanaki, a flirtatious rogue, and his partner Us, from Shinjuku's police force, meet with a special unit, probing a series of chilling cases. Each case hotter than the last, yet their subordinates mock the nicknames Yanaki dishes out to criminals bruising his ego. Still, he presses on, stressing their mission to keep these dark secrets hidden, because the truth about these late-stage undead, the public wouldn't believe a word. The most dangerous threats now, fire-spitting death bugs and the enigmatic Lem Min. Alongside them rises a fresh menace. Skeletal revenants of transmigrating youths. The criminals Kaja knocked out are now escorted to the afterlife by Lem Min himself. The clues left at the crime scenes tie back to Kaya, leaving the team more bewildered than ever. Though some start suspecting illusions behind these emerging disasters, the Data Revision Squad's prime directive is to expose fraudsters, because as long as humans remain flesh and blood, the game is on. AG-Tech seems to have picked its favourite prey, the bone-type players. Meanwhile, at the base, Kaya succeeds in soul-swapping Boka Hangdu into a giant stuffed shark. Kidu, half a month's salary richer, is over the moon. Anne comforts the unlucky boy, promising this borrowed body is only a vessel for doing good. Luckily, Bokar himself has no quarrel with the arrangement. In fact, he might just be the luckiest shark in this undead saga. He's found a strange kind of happiness, whether hiding his chi in a drone, or now a fluffy shark, he's always got his face pressed against a slice of paradise. What more could a young guy ask for? For him, it's simple, just borrow someone's vocal cords, cast a little magic, and voila, he's back to spinning tales. But that kind of magic drains energy fast, so before earning money, the Thendian urgently needs to recharge his soul's energy. As a summoner, his power lies in drawing spirits from the departed and turning them into his magic. Instead of hunting down places thick with negative energy, he can substitute with gems. And, the good news, this world is brimming with precious stones, just like his old world. Thief Thandien is thrilled if he can restore enough magic. He could rake in cash from the wealthy ladies around here. The bad news, reality hits hard after a visit to the gem shop, where a stone the size of a booger costs as much as a police officer's entire salary. The Thandien feels crushed back home. Even kids could afford to carve silly trinkets from these pebbles. But in this peaceful dream, he'll have to save for centuries just to buy the whole store. Walking back, disappointment weighs on him. The massive magic source before his eyes could vanish to dust if he siphons it. While the group chats, a dark-skinned man suddenly storms in, snatching Kuju's drone. This is Arjasi from Team 3, managed by Shaki. Meanwhile, their boss is either busy chasing older women or investigating the buried-alive gang led by Jimba, rumoured to be connected to Aja's underlings. Over here, Masaki warns the Thandien that the man before them is a tough nut to crack. Even keyboard heroes fall silent facing this danger. He plans to stay quiet, pretending nothing's wrong, but the Thandien interrupts, demanding half a month's salary back for his friend. Ajase, shocked by the Thandien's link to these lowlifes, tries to intervene, but it only fuels the Thandien's rage. He's tasted society's bitter, cruel bite in his old world, and knows firsthand how it shatters those close to him. No one has the right to use his friends or spirit. The Thandien's aura is so intense that Ajase quickly retreats, yet this danger excites the dark-skinned man. He's no stranger to street fights, having wiped out the Kuju gang in an instant. Kuju knows this man well and tries to stop the Thandien from revealing his true power in front of Ajase. In their tense exchange, the Thandien's past life identity slips out, forcing Kuju to call Ajase for a truce. But the real aim is to buy time, summoning a few more drones to film the scene. Meanwhile, the cop punches innocent bystanders. Ajase can't act like a thug and instead starts airing Kudujia's dirty laundry, telling stories of his betrayals to save his own skin. But the Thandien sees his teammate as a better man than Ajase, a dark, chaotic force. In a flash, the Thandien's overwhelming presence makes the cop hesitate, thinking he's hiding secret skills. As their eyes lock in a silent, almost tender moment, Misaki suddenly appears behind Ajase, delivering a powerful kick that sends him crashing into a wall. She quickly checks on the Thandien and helps him escape the grim alleyway. That brutal kick from the wild Misaki stuns the dark-skinned man long enough for the Thandien to whisk them both up to the rooftop. After the storm, the group shares their frustrations over Kuju's exposure. But the Thandien doesn't care if his secrets leak back. In his old world, a church's magic could extract any information from a person. That's why Thithandien values comradeship over hidden truths. The dark-skinned man limps back to base, asking his team to investigate the strange mark on his belly. An experienced elder spots the mark and realizes it appeared at the scene where Jimba's entire gang was buried alive. She advises Ayase to do any research in a private room, because having a beastly overlord like Thithandien on the police force is no joke. Meanwhile, other officers gossip about the clown-led group by Sabaki and discuss Lemon's terrifying deeds like sending kidnappers straight to the underworld. If ordered, Lemon will do anything. Those who confront him often chant prayers hoping for mercy, because no gunfire or AK sprays can save them from a broken neck. While they talk about Lemon, he's disguised as a ninja in the police station spying on Misaki's trail. Despite his sharp tongue, Sabaki earns respect for taking on such nightmarish cases. Shaki, meanwhile, is busy drinking with pretty girls at Kuja's place, spilling dirt on criminals branded as harbingers of doom like Lemon. It's baffling how this drunkard reveals secrets surrounded by Kaja's undercover agents who keep pretending to be oblivious. If Thithandien and the wild Misaki hadn't crashed the party, these spies might have kept playing dumb. But the duo's sudden arrival, boldly turning themselves in, changed everything. At first, Sabaki wasn't too bothered, until he got a message from Ashaki, who quickly invited the heavenly duo over to stall for backup. Kuju notices Ajase leading a group out of the police station, and in the background, Lemon begins his own move. As Thithandien enjoys the finest drink he's ever tasted, Ajase's team arrives at Carissa's bar. Before Kuju can warn the team's hawk-eyed members, Thithandien and Misaki are hauled off to the station for tea. Suddenly, the bar's lights cut out, not Kaya's doing to cover a subordinate's escape, but Lemon's sinister move. Thithandien plans to use demonic magic to escape with Misaki, but disaster strikes, greeting them both. Kaja blocks his men from clashing with Lemon, reasoning that if Lemon meant harm, there'd already be a murder. But hot-headed cops insist on dragging the criminal back before chaos erupts. Misaki warns Thithandien that this foe is even scarier than No Words Needed. The souls haunting this villain number, countless. Proof arrives quickly as several officers get knocked out cold. Lemon moves with a terrifying speed, taking down bystanders one after another. Taking on terrifying missions like these earned him high marks. Shaki liked that. But she was busy drinking with some beautiful girls at Kaja's place. Meanwhile, Kuju casually spilled secrets of criminals labelled disasters like death or Lemon. Somehow this drunken chatter spilled amidst undercover agents of Kaja, and they all played dumb like pros. If Shishinden and the mad Misaki hadn't crashed the party, these two might have stayed ghosts. Just mentioning it summoned her to surrender. At first, Sabaki didn't care much until a message from Ashaki arrived. Quickly, he invited the Heaven Strike duo to hang out, buying time for reinforcements. Kuju also spotted Asi leading a group out of the police station, and in a corner, Lemon began his move. While Shishinden was blissfully high on the best drink he'd ever tasted, Asi's team reached Carissa's bar before Kuju could warn the squad. Shishinden and Misaki were carried off to the station for tea, when suddenly the lights went out, not Kaja's doing to aid an escape, but Lemon's. The stage was set for the next deadly act. They planned to use demonic teleportation to escape this spot with Misaki, but fate had other plans. Disaster came knocking on both their doors. Kaya stepped in to block his subordinate's move, sensing trouble with Lemon. If Lemon had come with ill intent, a murder would have already happened. Yet the hot-headed cops charged forward, grabbing the criminal by the collar before the fight could erupt. Misaki warned the spirit commander that this guy was even more terrifying than ours, but no words were needed. The spirits clinging to him were countless, a chilling proof, as several officers were knocked flying by his fists. Lemon moved with the speed of a thunderclap, taking down bystanders one after another. Ajax had no choice but to rush to the mummy's side and challenge him to a duel. Losing meant saving face for the police. With a powerful kick, Axe struck the mummy's guts straight on. But no need to elaborate. This guy was surrounded by an army of souls. Just moments later, several officers were sent flying courtesy of Lemon's punches. He moved with terrifying speed, taking down bystanders one by one. AGX had no choice but to leap into action, challenging the corpse to a duel to restore the police's honor. He landed a solid kick right into Lemon's gut, but it barely registered. The situation grew tense, but Chief Sabaki pleaded for both sides to take it easy as they were in a public place. AGX pulled out the police baton, swinging it at Lemon's face, but was caught mid-swing. Lemon didn't even bother to acknowledge the police's ace, and glided straight toward Misaki, scooping her up before making a swift exit right in front of AGX. The shrine was hesitant to use magic, knowing that if the cops discovered his true identity, his life would be more miserable than a pig in slop. While he was lost in his own worries, AGX continued to chase Lemon with handcuffs, but every strike he made just hit the ground, sending him crashing into the wall for the second time that day. But with a shackle on his ankle and abandoning his comrades, Ammon chose otherwise. Men quickly apologized to his mentor, then surrounded Lemon with magic. A bony hand struck the mummy's back, forcing him to release Misaki. Seizing the moment, Ammon urged, "Run! Get out of this battlefield, fast!" Kaija, sensing Ammon's move, snuffed out the candle as the dazed cops stumbled like owls. Shaki spotted Misaki being held by a skeletal hand illuminated by a flashlight. More importantly, Lemon wasn't about to let his target escape. Charging like a god, he shattered all of Ammon's bony arms. Darkness surrounded them, like ink, but when Lemon reached Misaki again, he whispered something tender, protecting Ammon's safety at all costs. At last, Ammon was forced to reveal the secret Lemon sought, receiving a bonus bite laced with a numbing poison. But Lemon's thick bandages blocked the venom's effect. The real attack came when Ammon thrust a saliva-coated fork into Lemon's thigh, a move that spun the mummy into a haze, the world swirling like a nightclub under poison's influence. While Misaki stalled for time, Ammon completed a game-hacking spell that left the boss trembling in his boots. Kaya's place descended into chaos. Even Sabaki shied away, facing the calamity called Lemon. But Lemon wasn't out yet. He was still intact to report back to his superiors. His handsome older brother Nezu had sent him to check if Jimbo was truly down for the count. Lemon even shared intel about Ammon. After narrowly escaping being wiped out, Kuji was shocked that his two tigers survived the ordeal. He also explained the origin of the name Lemon, wherever drama brews, Lemon's shadow follows. Lucky for them, despite being targeted, they found moments to joke. Ammon poured magic into battling Lemon, yet managed to reclaim magic from souls Lemon had slain. Ammon was grateful to Misaki for giving them both a breath of life, though she had to reveal a secret. Even with her mental struggles, Misaki knew how to repay kindness, remembering the person who once patched the donut-shaped scar on her belly. Ammon recalled his mentor's words when realizing this boy would endure far longer than expected, so his master wanted him to protect his comrades. Now, Ammon still felt weak and clueless, struggling to shield his teammates. Yet now, he was ready to forsake his own troubled life just to keep his friends from logging out too soon. Meanwhile, Lemon's boss laughed like a fool upon discovering Ammon was still breathing. After this grueling showdown, Ammon finally understood the true depth of his magic reserves. Still pretty weak, so now men will focus on getting rich sounds off topic, but the power of the spirit god's realm can be used for many things. One of those is making pacts with rational souls. The pen spirit is trying to transmit something to them. That's the example. Spirit God's realm and Misaki cooked up a clever plan, but the moment those two idiots, Ku and Gu, heard it, they had to roast the pen spirit. Spirit God's realm just signed a pact, and now there's an even crazier idea to turn men, the clueless, into a fortune teller. Thanks to the team's combined powers, the plan went off without a hitch. Everyone believed Spirit God's realm's words because the info he gave was as sharp as a razor, credit to the keyboard hero and his devil's eye. He even helped an old lady find her late husband's hidden safe. They made a decent amount of money, but Spirit God's realm decided to share it. All blessings shared, burdens borne alone. Bakaya's a little hyperactive because he doesn't really want the money. Q was about to spill the dark secrets of this born with a silver spoon guy when some suited men burst in bodyguards of Boka's troublesome grandkids. Thanks to Shark version, Boka Spirit God's realm quickly caught on and came up with a universe-level genius plan: don a hood and pretend to be Spirit God's realm spouting nonsense to fool the kids. Of course, that lame trick didn't fool anyone, but the nickname sounded cool to the grandkids. The twins didn't come to arrest him. They'd heard their uncle was playing fortune teller and swung by to get a reading. Instead, they got kicked out since it wasn't business hours. The team almost called the cops on the twins for disturbing the peace. A little provocation from the keyboard hero made the girl's mouth run wild, but luckily the bodyguards still had their wits and dodged the trap. Seeing the grandkids almost in tears from being scolded, Spirit God's realm embraced both twins tightly and suddenly said they had a bright future. He promised the souls following the twins that he'd protect them. That was the pact he accepted from those souls. Before heading home, Men needed to cram all the family history of Bokar into his head. Since birth, Men's been the youngest son of Shoyama's chairman, with a fortune enough to buy a few dozen islands to sip coconuts on. Surprisingly, the massive inheritance from his dad, Ran, will be managed by Bokar. If Ran steps away, Misaki and Ku are also hired to protect the VIP. Both Bokar and Men were stunned hearing this. Men had no other plan but to assign a skeleton as a bodyguard. Back home, the group remembered the girl with the student face, but assassin-level skills from the twins' squad, who doubted if this guy was really their uncle. But both froze for 5 seconds when they saw their uncle Kadu patiently waiting in Men's car. When Men got grilled, they received news that Rosen's favourite kid was coming home, so no scolding this time. But who knows what dangers await these troublesome twins. Finally, Spirit God's realm had to return to the big house to manage the twins. Upon arrival, he saw spirits behind the 2 kids and another grandchild, but Kadu scolded their uncle for lying about a trip to find his true self. Whether he found that self or not, he'd already brought home a mysterious girl to meet the family. Ordinary folks might think that's strange, but Spirit God's realm was still reeling from Misaki's sudden transformation into a good girl. It felt a bit suffocating at the dinner table. That's when Spirit God's realm learned his teammate's true identity wasn't ordinary. Misaki is the daughter of the steel-strong business titan, Saki Miga. Uncle Taku also felt sorry for Misaki's unlucky parents, since he'd once been helped by her family during a clash. Spirit God's realm recalled the crash course on his own family tree, which he was forced to cram into his brain. It turns out the Master Secret Keeper was born late to the stepmother, making him 30 years younger than his eldest brother. Next important figure is the nephew Kadu, director of Sharma Security Force. The Pen Spirit explained this scary force consists of ex-cops who handle reckless fools trying to mess with the family. Though only 26 Kadu is a genius, Men snapped back to reality after 5 seconds of daydreaming to see Taku's wife holding Misaki tightly. She wanted to bond with the future family heir, but went a bit overboard, earning a reminder from Kadu. Watching Misaki's acting skills impressed Spirit God's realm, who had spent the whole evening learning how to eat like a noble. Shizuki, the grandchild, noticed the shark behind Spirit God's realm shaking its head every time he looked at it, luckily starting to ramble about the shark's origin, named Sabokhao. That story killed Shizuki's mood, truly baffling members of Shinojama's quirky squad. While Spirit God's realm was zoning out over the shark fanatic girl, a plump old man suspiciously asked about him. Bokar was clueless where this grandpa popped out from. The others were busy working. Only Taku and his wife had a day off, and little Saro was self-isolating in his room. The family conversation was interrupted when the clan head Ran entered. He loved shark movies and suggested some for his recovery. However, all the films were shark-themed. The plump old man tried to chat with Spirit God's realm earlier, but got chased away by Rosen. Now Rosen wanted to scold his mischievous son for running away from home. But Ran didn't want an apology. He just wanted a heads up that his son returned safely. Then he took his son aside for a private talk and told Misaki to tour the house. Meanwhile, the spirits behind the kids grew tense. Disaster was looming over the twins. They spoke of a fire about to ignite in the big house. Spirit God's realm sat recounting his runaway experiences, full of lies and tricks, though Min never expected Rosen knew Men wasn't his real son from the start. Seeing the master liar Rosen already had a sword at Men's throat. Though close to death, Rosen was still a loving father and wouldn't be fooled by this act. This kind of parent was a world apart from Men's own, who'd sold him off like merchandise the moment he was born. Today was a rare day off for him, while little Saro was too absorbed in his own world, hugging his room. Just then, the head of the family walked in, Mr. Ran, who adored Saro's films, suggesting them for him to watch while recovering. Yet somehow, all he found were shark movies. Minbeo asked about the shrine earlier, trying to strike up a conversation with Rose, but ended up getting scared away. Rojan wanted to confront his wayward son for running away from home. However, he didn't need an apology, he just wanted a signal that his son was home safe. Afterward, Rojan invited his son for a private chat, reminding Misaki to explore the house. Meanwhile, the tension among the kids grew tighter, as disaster loomed over the twins, speaking of a fire soon to ignite in this big house. While the shrine shared stories from his time on the run, little did he know that Rojan had already figured out he wasn't his son from the start. Rojan, keen to keep the truth hidden, had a sword ready at his throat. Even though he was on his last legs, Rojan remained a loving father, knowing these games wouldn't fool him. This kind of parenting was worlds apart from the shrine's upbringing, because from the moment he slipped from the river, he was sold like a commodity. Rojan was about to ask where his son was now, when the shrine noticed something was off with the twins. He asked the old man if he could go save some leopards, after which he could do whatever he wanted. The way the shrine moved was anything but human, and then an explosion truly occurred, leaving the old man worried. It sparked a flashback to the time Kazuki accidentally dropped the wallet his sister Suzuka had given him. Suzuka promised to find it for him, and she did, discovering it behind the garden. However, while trying to alert the family about Minbeo and his crew's plan to burn the twins alive, Suzuka inadvertently made noise, and the killer turned her into a human torch while trying to warn her family. Though she was burned, her spirit remained restless, knowing Kazuki and Shizuki were still in danger. Meanwhile, both heard the explosion coming from the big house and were led by a bodyguard. This guy reeked of evil, so this twin's life was basically over at the police station. The duo, feeling overwhelmed, had to meet with a disaster named Soji Musa, a notorious troublemaker. The dynamic duo, their heads spinning from too much chaos, sought answers from Soji Musa, nicknamed Phantom Solitaire, by Shaki. Shaki's hunt was for a fiery menace known as Firebug, who scorched his victims and left cruel curses at the scene. Shaki's sharp mind saw through the flames. The Firebug held no true power, just deadly traps set with malicious cunning. On the run, Kazuki and Shizuki, guided by their loyal bodyguard, ducked into a hidden cellar. But a sixth sense screamed danger, no escape lurked here. The criminal shed his mask, revealing his true darkness. Suzuka, now a genuine, lost spirit, tried to shield her beloved siblings, but the killer's merciless knee struck her spectral form. This is Misaki's cue. The teammates sworn to protect the twins' souls. Souls. The assassin's mask clattered to the floor. His plan to feast on the twins was foiled. Before the fiery battle with the Firebug could ignite, the killer's identity was unveiled. Misaki recalled the moment he warned her. His lightning strike plunged the room into inferno. In this desperate blaze, Misaki lunged, delivering a fierce kick to the Firebug's head, shattering more than just bricks. The Firebug dodged with uncanny agility, making Misaki question if this madman was even human. Undeterred, she swung her baton with relentless fury, but something was off. This villain wasn't chasing the twins. Instead, he'd turned the mansion into a blazing prison. Trapped, the twins could only chant prayers, caught in a fiery noose. Suzuka's fate hung in the balance. Was this the bitter fruit her sisters had to bear? As they prepared to log out of this nightmare, Suzuka's silhouette appeared. But it wasn't her, it was Uncle Boy C wielding skeletal arms to dig through earth and stone. The master craftsman had arrived, rescuing Shizuki, and Kazuki, fulfilling his promise to Suzuka's restless spirit. The shrine's divine presence assured the twins that Suzuka's protective spirit was always near, guarding them from the shadows. With the family safe, it was time for Tarkez to confront the chaos. Overconfident, Min Fat gloated, believing the Firebug had charred Ran's grandchildren and avenged old grudges. But fate had other plans. 3 trucks blocked his path, and a fierce woman on a motorcycle punched him out of his arrogance. The shrine's divine eye spotted the Firebug, disguised as a maid, his victims countless. But there was no escaping the watchful gaze of the shrine. As he planned his retreat, Misaki struck with a dragon fury kick, shattering his facade. Unfazed, the Firebug breathed flames back at the shrine's guards. The master craftsman prepared his final strike, ready to handcuff this fiery menace and end the nightmare. The spirit squad sensed a shadow lurking behind the wall. Out of nowhere, Lem Min appeared like a god, grabbing the fire-spitting beetle by the head and slamming it to the ground. After finishing, he told the two to keep quiet before vanishing into a sea of flames. Lem Min showed up alongside Tak Du and his crew to squeeze information from Min Beo. Sensing the sly tricks of the uncle, Tak Du prepared some unusual torture techniques to silence the chatterbox. The sly Soliti saw through Shaki's fake intel. No disaster like the fire-spitting beetle would fall for cheap traps. The so-called disasters knew magic well. This time, the department head was read like an open book by Soliti. The spirit squad captured a suspect who was being escorted by cops. Suddenly, fiery script burned across the vehicle's ceiling, while the police around looked downright terrifying. Soon after, the imposter was incinerated by the fire-spitting beetle right before the officers' eyes. The beetle left after eliminating the fake. With the threat gone, the spirit squad resumed questioning Jian, but before he could explain, they asked Josian's servants to step away, ordered by the godfather himself. So both sides withdrew, allowing some private space. First, An Men introduced himself as a lost cow, reincarnated from another world, while Tak Du grilled Min Beo Lem Min, whispered that the spirit squad were the true saviors of the two panthers. To prove he was from another realm, the spirit squad summoned a spying eye, a man obsessed with boys. Jian immediately drew his sword ready to strike the madman and protect his beloved son. Jian felt a strange unease because Misaki showed no fear, partly because she trusted the godfather. Even if struck, she'd be fine. Suddenly, Boka the shark version leapt in and knocked Jian's sword away. Just one look and Jian recognized the shark as his son. Instead of fury, he covered his face, laughing at his son's crazy antics. What mattered most was that the godfather understood everything and handed An Men a synthetic body. This artificial body was Shinojama's latest project. Before An Men could agree, Boka, the shark, slammed the table, demanding to borrow the cool new body. "You can do all sorts of tricks, cow," he said, "if you escape that weak human shell." Truly baffling, this guy was born already miles ahead. Don't agree to lend the body to the spirit squad since someone clearly wanted to harm them. Still, he grumbled that the madman had snatched his son's neck. Alone, the godfather calmly pondered his next moves. Meanwhile, the spirit squad reported to Kudu that everything was settled. Boka, the shark, was sulking over his burnt books and gaming gear, destroyed by the imposter. But Misaki thanked him for protecting her and laid her head on his shoulder. An Men felt joy too. This was the second time he witnessed a soul forgiving the one who once harmed it. Before returning to Shinjuku, the twins came to thank Misaki for her good deed. It was her first time receiving thanks, so she was a bit shy. The spirit squad also got their thanks, but thought the real credit belonged to Suzuka's guardian spirit. They planned to sign a contract with Suzuka's spirit, but not just yet. Phantom Solity caught wind that a top-tier fire-spitting beetle had appeared, so, as a magic trick, he smoothly escaped the police station, prepping a grand spectacle. Before leaving, the spirit squad was invited to see the beloved pet, a white badger fish. Honestly, the VIP crowd's logic left everyone speechless. An emergency meeting was held because Shaki accidentally let a disaster escape. Historically, this disaster caused chaos. Phantom Solity was a flamboyant clown, stealing famous artworks to fuel streamer content. He even used illusions to make a skyscraper invisible. But the case that made him infamous was kidnapping the Prime Minister with magic. To keep it alive, he captured more opposition officials and hypnotized them to read a killer's book. Once snapped out, they realized the forced read was quite the embarrassment. This incident was a national shame, turning Japanese security into a worldwide joke. The story didn't end there. Solity voluntarily turned himself in, realizing this world lacked real magic, making his tricks meaningless to those who wield it. Though a bit unhinged, he was still a cop at heart. Back at home, the spirit squad flaunted a new radio costing as much as a tablet. Ku teased, "You're so naive, kid." Yet somehow, it picked up hot news. Only now did the group realize the captured killer was just a fake, fire-spitting beetle. Ku ran a reality check on his computer. Next news came from Soliti himself. Initially, the spirit squad was clueless until their reporter's soul, sealed 5 years ago, revealed the king of con artists was well known. Finally, Soliti announced to all Japan his return, promising to cause even more havoc. After his rant, he vanished. Shaki guessed Solity bought broadcast rights from a local grocery. There you could buy anything if you paid the right price. Though the shop was locked up, Solity still managed deals. Zaki feared upcoming disasters would unite. Sure enough, Solity was chatting with the fire-spitting Beetle King, planning to meet those who truly mastered magic. Though, side by side, the Beetle had to call Solity to gossip. They started exchanging tricks and banter about the imposter who pretended to be the fire beetle. The Spirit Squad wondered if their world had similar weirdos. They knew a few: the assassin who killed the former emperor, a poisonous dragon, and the one who helped destroy disasters. The convenience store he ran could sell you anything as long as the price was right. But presently, that store was behind bars, yet he still managed to make deals. Zaki feared the disasters would band together, and indeed, Solity was mumbling to the fire-breathing king about those who truly understood magic. Though they stood beside each other, the fire-breathing king had to call Solity on the phone to chat. They began exchanging stories about the impersonator of the fire-breathing king. The shrine was also curious about how many mutant freaks existed in his world. He knew a few, including the one who killed the emperor, a poisonous dragon, and the one who helped him escape was the disaster destroyer. The Dragon King was only as big as a vehicle, and the shrine later used it as a skeleton soldier. The shrine realized that dragons appeared in the books here, so perhaps this world had a few. But according to the pen, there might be some connection between the two worlds. Meanwhile, Solity and the fire-breathing king were still exchanging techniques while chatting about trivial things. Solity kept running from the king's flames, but no matter how hard he tried to communicate, the king couldn't understand him after Solity's bubble burst, and he fled from the fire pursuing him. The flames singed the king's cloak, but Solity managed to create a wall with his papers somehow standing atop the fire-breathing king's umbrella. After a short exchange, Solity realized that the king's flames weren't magic. He wanted to ignite the passion for hunting real sorcerers in the fire-breathing king. After hearing the shrine's stories, both Misaki and Kuju found the killers here were merely pests compared to the shrine. Yet Lemon, even in the old world of the Blessed, was still a formidable figure. While they were talking, they heard the bell ringing, leading them to hold hands and peek outside. To their surprise, Saro entered carrying a gigantic shark, causing chaos. Saro came to ask for permission to set up a base at his uncle's place. The whole gang suddenly turned into a bunch of confused kids, unable to comprehend this introverted girl trying to act normal. Saro had no choice but to introduce herself to the shrine's friends, keeping her family's identity secret. So they had to start from the beginning. Surprised, Saru's older sister showed up carrying a massive shark to stir things up. Saru's kin came to ask to set up camp at their uncle's base. Suddenly, the whole group turned into clueless kids, unable to understand this introverted girl trying to act normal. Saru had to introduce herself to the Death God's Hall crew. Kuju's group couldn't reveal their identities, since everyone knew the Shinozama clan's reputation, so they had to listen to the story all over again. But something new emerged. Saru's servant, though still unsure if his name was Lei Yi, was introduced for the first time today. After wrapping up introductions, they got to the reason the shark fanatic came here. According to Ran's footage, both Boy Tiar and Sar's rooms were burned down, so he wanted to crash at Saru's place for a while and sent along some bodyguards as well. This way, the Death God's Hall also had a chance to investigate if these attacks were aimed at them. The next morning, just as men snapped out of a daze, she found so sprawled on the floor inside the shark, fussing about. Even though the shark fan said she was fine with just a sleeping bag, the group couldn't let their new members sleep on the floor like that. Just as they planned to buy a mattress, news came from Lei Yi that the Shinozama residence was currently being questioned by some officials. Sure enough, Shaki and Aja had arrived to investigate suspicious matters related to this incident. With their clueless, scatter-brained look while questioning the servant Kazuki, and Shizuki couldn't have guessed these two were actually the police detectives. The sisters probably thought they were just gangsters demanding protection money. But no, the peacekeepers of the Shinozama clan stepped out to greet the police duo who had travelled far to ask about the fake fire-breathing bug. Instead of gaining leads, Sabaki was grilled about why disasters like the fire-breathing bug were roaming freely. Things got twice as embarrassing when Taku brought up the news about Phantom Solity, who recently escaped. Remember how he kidnapped several Japanese leaders last time and crashed stock prices like pants dropping? The whole Shinozama household felt the impact. so the clan's peacekeepers asked the police to cut the comedy act. After they left, Ace told Shaki that the two men following Taku were most likely Leaf Village ninjas, especially the tall, pale one. Ace guessed he was the type to solve everything with fists like himself. But the important thing was they still made progress this trip. Shaki swiftly snapped a secret photo of the Shinozama. 3 generations, most notably young boy C, was in the picture. According to their report, both the Death God's Hall and Misaki appeared at the fire scene, so this couldn't be a mere coincidence. Shaki realized the recent bizarre events on Lazada were all connected to first-time paying players. On the Death God's Hall side, they had already prepared beds and mattresses for the 2 reluctant new members, though Lei Yi's sleeping spot was as cramped as a public restroom, but he was still content. Both quickly settled in, and the Death God's Hall team returned to their operations room. That night, while Saru was sleeping like the dead Lei, the recent story of the Phantom Lazada revolves around the new players making their first deposits. The Divine team has prepared sleeping quarters and bedding for 2 unwitting new members. Lei Yi's sleeping space is about as spacious as a public restroom, yet he finds himself oddly satisfied. Both of them quickly settle in, and the Divine team returns to their command center. That night, while Saru sleeps like the dead, Lei Yi suddenly awakens, straining to eavesdrop on a conversation between Saint Dongye and his teammates. Lei Yi is determined to expose the true identity of the imposter claiming to be the master of the Shama house. Despite Jan's assurances that Boy C is a reputable figure, Lei Yi remains suspicious. If the real Boyka is still alive, he plans to eliminate the VIP player, driven by the belief that Boyka is weak and unworthy of being Jan's child over himself. Lei Yi recalls the moment he was ambushed by the Agak house, left battered and broken on the battlefield. His father had intended to use his crippled body to create a grotesque creature nurturing the most vile toxins within his own organs, a fate far more torturous than death itself. At that moment, Boyka's grandfather appeared like a deity, offering to buy Lei Yi away from his suffering, unable to bear witnessing a young boy in such distress. Li Wai recalls the moment his limbs were mercilessly crushed by Agak's enemies during his first battle. His father planned to turn his disabled son's body into a living incubator for the vilest poisons, a fate far crueler than death. At that bleak hour, Boyka's grandfather appeared like a god demanding to buy Li Wai's freedom. He refused to watch a boy be used as a disposable tool. The grandfather's offer exchanged Li Wai's fate for cutting-edge technology, from their conglomerate an unprecedented chance to smile and save his cursed life. Meanwhile, Carissa's boss revealed the dark duality of the Shinojama lineage, a family with a secret assassin organization. According to the Kaja duo, hiring outsiders to eliminate Boyka was naive. After all, Boyka was Jan's cherished son, making such a move nearly impossible. This assassin network, deeply intertwined with the Shinojama family, is actually Li Wai's family, composed entirely of players aligned with the dark arts. Meanwhile, the Clown Prince's group unknowingly shares their secret conversations, mainly revolving around ancient dragons from a past world. Among these tales is a bizarre love story between a dragon and an imperial general. Li Wai listens puzzled by their cryptic game talk. Sometimes Li Wai catches the clattering sounds of Misaki dancing with skeletons, or the frantic scribbles of the contract-bound spirit alongside the clueless death god. The death god even keeps watch outside Seizo's room, signaling a silent threat to the assassin troop. This only fuels Li Wai's resolve to reveal the true face of the fake young master. Meanwhile, at the police station, the chief of the subcommittee begins to focus more seriously on the Shinojama heir. Though the higher-ups seem more interested in mocking Misaki's grotesque paintings, the heaven-struck duo gathers valuable intel on recent dramas. First, the heir's sudden runaway linked to the holy Buo Tin Kuza. Then, the death god's accidental mention of being sold by his family in the old world, a detail others would dismiss, but not the nosy Shahaki who senses something off. Lastly, the death. God's new role as a street shaman in Shinjuku could be good news for Solity, who hunts real mages in this world. Phantom Solity tries to reintegrate after years behind bars, only to cross paths with the old guard. This sparks a marathon showdown between the Holy Family and the Guardians, while the Death Gods group scrambles for funds, interrupted by an unexpected visit from Songsaki and AX. Their surprise raid shakes Kudu, who trembles under the table. Their goal: to test the death. God's reputed powers. How will the Holy Mark's team navigate this peril? Sheki isn't here to recruit, but to measure the master manipulator's psychological skill, while Rase merely watches, uninterested in divination. Both keep an eye on Kudujia's desk, ensuring their keyboard hero stays out of police custody. The Death God invites the guests to a side room before the main event. Before the session begins, Shuki reminds Rick Kid Boy C to pay his dues if he wants to work. The Death God interrupts Shaki, warning him that exposing Soliti's position is a police disgrace too risky for the chief. The Death God's glowing orb and commanding aura surprise Sao, even stirring respect in his formidable uncle. Rick Kid's bold tricks earn grudging admiration from Lee Y, who waits for the right moment to have the two old guards haul Boy Car to the station. How on earth do you raise this kid, Lee Y wonders, as the plot thickens back at the fortune-telling table. The gossip is uncannily accurate, making Tsubaki speculate on how Kujia passes information to our protagonist. Kuji even finds leads to help Tsubaki escape the fate of being the right-hand man. Now the real drama unfolds, and Shaki can't hide his shifting expression. The Death God suddenly brings up Shaki's greatest life crisis, yet offers no solution. Suddenly the pen on the table jerks upright, nearly making the chief's heart leap from his chest. Li Waye recalls hearing this eerie sound last night and suspects the Death God's group is setting up some elaborate scheme. But what no one expects is Shaki's reaction. He loses his cool and grabs the Death God by the collar. Shaki's eyes widen as he sees a painting depicting a flashback of his time working with his senior. It's a secret symbol the elder showed him, before swiftly burning it. Surprised that Rick Kid from the Shinojama clan knows this secret, Shaki regains composure and pays a hefty compensation for wrinkling the Death God's shirt. Meanwhile, the heaven-struck duo from the police quietly exits, having just learned the Death God's true identity. The name Death God conjures disaster in Sabaki's mind, but Lee Y senses something off about Sabaki during the reading. Still duty calls, and Lee Y can't linger to gossip. As Tsubaki dines with his team, the atmosphere turns heavy. Tsubaki breaks the silence, allowing Arashe to freely interview him about his earlier outburst, a rare moment that unsettles even the usually calm blonde. Suddenly, Shaki recalled the greatest trauma of his life, but he didn't just remember, he sought a way to overcome it. The pen on the table stood upright as if Shaki's heart nearly left his body. While the magical pen scribbled something, Leia watched, recalling the noises from last night. He suspected that the Spirit Commander's group had planned a trick all along, but what no one expected was Shaki's sudden loss of control. He lunged forward, grabbing the Spirit Commander by the collar after spotting a drawing, a flashback to his days working under his senior. That symbol, the one Shaki quickly burned, was a secret only known to him and Shojima's Rick Kit. Shaki's shock was palpable. How did Rick Kit know this secret, yet he soon regained composure, paying a hefty sum to compensate for wrinkling the Spirit Commander's coat. Before the dynamic duo of the police department moved elsewhere, they learned the Spirit Commander's real identity. The name Spirit Commander made Tsubaki think of calamity, as if fate was resetting itself. But Leia sensed something strange about Tsubaki during the fortune-telling. Still duty called, and he couldn't linger to eavesdrop. While Tsubaki dined with his comrades, the atmosphere turned somber. Tsubaki broke the silence first, inviting a relaxed chat in the car to explain why he lost his cool earlier. Something had shaken the usually calm blonde to his core. He promised to reveal everything to his team. As they headed to the next location, Leia took the chance to grab snacks and some shark treats, finally having time to observe the police's main duo. Calmly, he paid a hefty sum as compensation for wrinkling the Sacred Sword Hall's attire before the heavenly couple from the police department moved elsewhere. He finally heard the true identity behind the name. Sacred Sword Hall, just hearing it made Tsubaki associate it with disaster. Everything seemed back on track, but Yi sensed something strange about Tsubaki during the fortune-telling. Still, he had to fulfill his role as butler and couldn't linger to eavesdrop. While Tsubaki dined with his associates, the atmosphere felt heavy. So Tsubaki spoke first, inviting to the car to comfortably interview him about what rattled his usually calm demeanour. Something had shaken the golden-haired man to his core. Tsubaki promised to reveal everything to his comrades during their travel to the next location. Yi, eager to understand the strange event, seized the moment to buy food and some sharks for Sao. Now, he had a rare chance to observe the police's core duo. Elsewhere, a criminal gang tried to reclaim an old scroll with vital information, but misfortune struck as they were all caught off guard and overwhelmed by flame-spewing bugs. The one who finally got hold of the tattered paper was Phantom Solity, who discovered a secret symbol hidden inside. Solity sniffed out something intriguing in that symbol, sparking a wild plan about the Sacred Sword Hall's group. After escaping the police's inquiry, the Sacred Sword Hall confessed truthfully, but Lei Yi saw no shadowy spirit clinging to Subaki. So where did the symbol that terrified the golden-haired man come from? And what about the mysterious young man Subaki sought Carissa? This time he wanted answers about that person, knowing Boise was tied to Carissa's organization. He wondered why this person used Boise to pass information only they knew. Carissa, meanwhile, was as confused as an owl, unsure what Subaki was after. Why the panic, Subaki? Where did you pull this lonely bachelor from? The inquiry hung in the air as he sought Carissa once more, but this time he craved knowledge about a certain individual. He knew Boise was entangled with Carissa's organization, and the burning question he had was why this person chose to use Boise as a conduit for information that only they shared. Kaja, listening intently, was as confused as an owl in daylight, completely oblivious to what Subaki was getting at. The head of the department grew angry, for Hosoj had once said the safety of their team was paramount. They had a duty to protect the past, present, and future of the children. Dragging a kid into such dangerous affairs was reckless. He wanted to confirm whether Carissa was exploiting these children for profit. Carissa shrugged it off, blaming the chaos around the god of death on fate, and claimed she only lent the kids a house. This could invite dark forces knocking on their door. Before leaving the bar, Shaki vowed to cleanse the police force, so his senior could someday return safely. Carissa's subordinates worried about the god of death's connection to Hosoj, but Carissa reassured them. After much turmoil, they had identified targets to eliminate for Rankuzu's and Misaki's safety. Misaki was shaken to learn the god of death's contract pen was once a prosecutor, a role that could oversee criminals and expose corrupt cops. In the old world of the St. Mark, there was a similar figure, though a bit rougher around the edges. As the god of death and his team sought more information, Hosodi demanded a ransom for the intel. Before diving into this, they had to raise 1 million yen, with Hosodi handling the fundraising. The group had to fulfill his final wish, part of their contract's terms. In exchange for Hosodi's loyalty, the god of death had to help him complete his last mission. Meanwhile, Jiang Do was locked in a prison in Bin Duong. Solity disguised himself as a warden to access the prison's info vault. There you could trade any piece of information as long as you offered something of equal value. Solity sought details about the symbol he'd gathered from the criminals, who were burned alive by flamethrowers. According to police records, the shopkeeper was a businessman who had existed centuries ago, but he was eventually arrested for shady dealings. Now, the man in the hooded jacket was his descendant, nicknamed the Grocery Store. This grocery store had influence over many countries thanks to his intelligence trading empire, but his power came with a price. The secrets he held could tip the scales of power in this shadowy world. As Solity delved deeper, the line between friend and foe blurred, and every revelation was a step closer to a dangerous truth that could shake the foundations of the underworld. The grocery store's influence wasn't just local, it stretched far beyond touching nations with the web of information he traded. But with great power came enemies lurking in every corner, ready to strike. Solity's quest to uncover the mystery behind the symbol was more than just a hunt. It was a journey through a maze of betrayal, loyalty, and shadows that threatened to consume them all. Right now, Solity has nothing valuable to trade for this crucial piece of information. All he can do is carve a few apples and teach the grocery store owner to rub oil on his hands while counting money to avoid cuts. Such a trivial tip, yet the store owner still handed over 3 candy bars for this flimsy trick, trying to lure Solity into a shady deal. The grocer mentioned a symbol connected to playing cards and the ancient knights from Central to Eastern Europe. The trial period had expired. To learn more, Solity had to buy a VIP package or leave. But the grocer only trades based on the value a client can bring him, and Solity's price might be thousands of times higher than a normal person's, because Solity is a walking disaster. The next morning, the mysterious symbol had spread everywhere. Nobody knew what it meant except for Sacred God Den. sacred god Den recognized it as a mark from an empire that was destroyed in his world. Flashback to when Unmen was just sold to that empire. His master was guiding him through the palace, explaining the empire's emblem. It was designed by the crown prince, the future king, to replace the old outdated crest. But sacred god Den wasn't the only one who knew about this strange emblem. Mafia gangs linked to this symbol were panicking, trying to erase it. They mentioned silencing witnesses from 5 years ago, likely connected to the prosecutor Hoso being taken away. Meanwhile, Shaki's group arrived at the chaos caused by Soliti. At this point, the chief handed his partner a note. Hoso had written during a fortune-telling session. 2 young men stood stunned when the most experienced police officer arrived with urgent news. The police department was in deep trouble. Even the mastermind behind this pig's trough scheme couldn't believe the scale of the play, all because of the number the grocer gave Soliti, roughly 3 trillion yen. Wait, did this guy just read too many digits? His ears must be ringing. But it was true. This price reflected Soliti's current money-making ability. The grocer predicted if Soliti used all his tricks to hustle cash, he could gather about 6 trillion yen. More importantly, this info was worth half the fortune Soliti could ever earn. To street thugs, it was worth only a few dozen yen. Because even if others knew the truth behind the emblem, it would just be a story to gossip about. The grocer guaranteed this info would solve Soliti's problems. But no matter how sweet the talk, the Con King stayed sharp and handsome, dodging the trap. He wanted to uncover the truth with his own skills, and even asked to buy a few hot air balloons from the grocer. Later, Soliti waited atop a balloon to spy on 2 men. He didn't expect to be ambushed by assassins checking if their target was truly dead to claim their reward. But it was just a decoy planted by the Con King. With video proof of the dummy being pierced, Soliti had a chance to offer a 300 million yen bounty for info about those dark organizations linked to the symbol on his hand. Could this be sacred god Den's golden ticket to riches and peace? That remains to be seen. But Soliti's descendant already smelled a scam from the Holy Mark's location. With a low-budget film, he successfully briefed Say on the real con layers of deception inside deception learned from the internet. According to plan, Soliti's descendant was furious because this group was full of crazies. But strangely, Soliti accepted everything. The reason? The moment Sub Kai suddenly grabbed his collar. Yet sacred god Den's expression stayed cold, as ice, which made her believe his story. Because if it were her uncle Boka in a similar situation, she'd have exploded by now. To accept that her uncle was taken off to sell salt and that Seizo had to bathe with a shark on the table to calm down, that's some serious mental gymnastics. She promised not to tell Lawai about the Holy Mark's secrets. Meanwhile, Kudu Jia advised Anmen to prepare memory-erasing spells just in case. Sacred God. Den explained these spells were common in his old world, but if used carelessly here, they could leave victims permanently disabled. He wouldn't use them recklessly on his friends. Yet the Holy Mark had already tested it. The victim was a terrorist gang who took Misaki's family to the other side. Even after knowing him for a while, Kuduji still felt chills at sacred god Den's power. This didn't upset Anmen. Instead, it was a breakthrough. The team finally feared him, a crucial step to reintegrate into society. And what's a minor issue compared to a crazy enemy who tortures foes with a smile like Misaki? Speaking of which, where did that scatterbrain disappear to? Turns out somewhere there was Rick Kit So Huang admiring his descendant's blurry figure in the bath. But an uninvited guest showed up, Misaki wielding a baton, to confess her sins for attacking Boyka in front of Sazo. She expected a beating, but Sazo forgave her, knowing her real struggle was self-forgiveness. Misaki wanted to know why Saa forgave her mistakes. In a flash, everyone forgot the shark-obsessed girl who once deemed the bespectacled kid a good person, since no one likes sharks except for troublemakers like Boyka. The shark couldn't believe what he'd just heard from his own grandchild, so he decided to go deaf from that moment on. Another reason was Misaki had saved Shizuki and Kazuki's siblings, deepening their bond. Misaki also confirmed Sazo wasn't the one who hired her to harm her uncle. If they wanted to hurt him, they'd have thrown him straight to the sharks. Boka was blushing after seeing too many beautiful souls and some 18-plus moments. Still naive, he didn't realize what shark toy Misaki carried until Kudu revealed the truth, shattering her completely. But it wasn't because she was spied on. Her anger was that her uncle was turned into the shark instead. She was ready to swap bodies with him. the holy mark transformed Uncle Bo into a big, dumb kid. Returning to the main story, Sacred God Den vowed to hunt down every villain trying to tarnish his precious memories. Thinking back, it's likely Solity isn't from Sacred God Den's world either, since he's also chasing this information. Kudujia wanted to know if Unmen knew any magic to track others' info. Sacred God Den. Segment incomplete. He didn't really know what the electric current was, but it felt like the way Kaduja secretly gathers information on others. This made Kaduja feel confident. After all, he wasn't much different from a mage collecting intel in a game. Ammon wasn't sure if anyone else knew about this method of reincarnation like him. But before arriving here, the spirit god had already released the souls of those who had fought alongside him in the cult. He felt guilty about these actions, yet was comforted by the thought that he was truly trustworthy, otherwise he wouldn't have been relied upon. Now, Kaduja was ready to get to work. Meanwhile, Hosodi warned the spirit god that the police force was just as dangerous as the dark gangs. At headquarters, Subak had enlisted a commissioner named Habaki to connect him with Director Hab, who warned the blonde man to be careful. This boss was extremely dangerous. This boss, Takosu, was the police director, but Anne said he was no different from a crime lord. Kaduja's group also managed to uncover some useful intel, including a piece that made the writer quite nervous because an underling had dared to use internal police systems to search for him. Shortly after, Shaki faced a disciplinary action from the police department, and he reminded them of some corrupt insiders still active within the force. Takosu tried to provoke the blonde man by mentioning his missing senior Hasaj, but Subak had already lost 2 comrades, so he remained calm in responding to the scheming director. Amid this tense battle of wits, Takosu bristled when his name was mispronounced by Shaki. As for the main reason for today's meeting, the boss wanted to assign Shaki the task of investigating Solity. Since the two seemed to have a knack for each other, Shaki would lead the mission. Solity was making a call to an informant trying to find out if any hackers had recently breached the police system. According to the informant, one suspect was linked to a fortune teller's location. Solity decided to visit this suspicious fortune teller himself, planning to cast a divination while investigating the mysterious figure. The number of customers visiting the fortune teller's place near Ammon's group was growing. Some even returned for a second time, convinced by the teller's accurate predictions. The spirit god's gaze brightened when recalling a previous reading, before the fortune teller cashed in on the gullible followers. "Has Kaduja found anything yet?" he asked. Despite a whole night spent searching, the info Kaduja gathered was still vague. One notable detail was that just as Hoso was about to uncover the answer, he vanished without a trace. Hoso recounted the moment he nearly caught the mastermind someone had hired an assassin to sterilize him inside the very building. The only plausible suspect was someone within the police force bold enough to target an inspector like Hoso. He only said so much as much was still unconfirmed, too many loose ends that could endanger the team and Bosie's family. The inspector chuckled. "I can only share so much as there's still a mountain of information I can't verify." He knew that revealing too much could jeopardize the safety of both Bosie's family and the team. Meanwhile, a gossipy officer was below chopping carrots while eavesdropping on the drama unfolding. Lei Wai was aware that the police department was facing internal strife, but what troubled him more was the odd way the group spoke. Every so often the Divine Squad would fall silent for no apparent reason before resuming their chatter. After a brief, silent pause for no apparent reason, the conversation picked up again. Shaki was summarizing what his team had gathered for other police chiefs. Their investigation focused on the symbol catching Solity's obsessive attention. Most listened closely, but some shady characters sneered at Shaki and Axe's partnership. Meanwhile, at work, the spirit commander was giving a tip to a middle-aged man who was actually Solity in disguise coming to get a fortune reading. All the info checked out, but Solity guessed the hacker Luogu had tipped off the spirit commander. Disappointed that this so-called prophet was just a mortal, Solity felt a bit let down. Seeing the man's sadness, the spirit commander offered to answer one question. Solity slyly asked about the symbol he was chasing, hoping to score 300 million in pocket money. As expected, the spirit commander couldn't decode the symbol for the king of scams. What Solity didn't expect was that this moment would shift his perspective on the sacred mark of the trade. The spirit commander pointed out flaws in the symbol Solity pursued and called on Hoso to perform as usual. But the king of scams couldn't get any clearer answers. Then came Solity's 500-second freeze. For a moment, he thought he'd cracked the truth, but he forced himself to stay calm, because if the prophet before him was part of a dark organization, his life might be at risk. Hozo reminded the spirit commander not to let his mouth run wild and reveal too much. But with his meddlesome nature, the spirit commander couldn't just stand by and watch his treasured symbol be faked. Just as the king of scams was about to escape the chilling place, the spirit commander threw him a surprise of news about the girl in the wheelchair behind him, who was deeply worried about Solly's fate. This was the second shock since Phantom Solity had shown up, seeking the sacred mark of the trade's blessing, gaining recognition from one of Japan's greatest disasters. At first, Solitai thought the prophet was just a fellow scammer, but how did he know the identity of the girl in the wheelchair? Another twist Solity spotted the flame bugs had arrived to spy. Seeing the girl's ugly jacket confirmed she wasn't ordinary. Shaki and Ars, the duo from Team 3, were also struggling with the mission to track Solity and the symbol he spread everywhere. Though they couldn't yet reveal this intel, it was highly likely a hidden enemy lurked within the police force. Despite facing countless targets, the Team 3 pair was lucky to receive reinforcements. Just as they were chatting, two irritable cops approached Subaki looking for trouble, but the blonde wasn't one to back down. He instantly fired back, mocking their bribes and greed. One cop grabbed Shaki by the collar, threatening that their turf was off limits. Of course, Subaki sided with the young troublemakers. When the police chief tried to turn violent, Axe grabbed his wrist firmly. Without Subaki's cool-headed command, that guy's arm might have been broken. The two cranky old men threatened Subaki, vowing to stage a fake crime scene to force his early retirement. Before they could escalate, Subaki's comrades from the security room stepped in. Some shoved the dirty old cop to the ground, others twisted the chief's wrist with simple but effective moves. With a few swift maneuvers, they turned the tables, threatening back with their own tricks. The sudden badass arrival of these allies crushed the schemes of the two corrupt cops, restoring order for now. In this chaotic dance of power and deception, the spirit commander's world was a storm of secrets and shadows. Every symbol, every glance was a piece of a puzzle that could change everything. The question lingered in a world where trust was scarce, who could truly be believed. And as Shaki and Os battled the invisible enemies within and outside the Force, their exhausting mission underscored an ominous truth. Sometimes the greatest threat comes from the very people sworn to protect. Yet hope flickered, fed by new allies, and the unbreakable bond of those who fought together. If you've ever felt caught between duty and betrayal, remember this even in the darkest places. A single spark of loyalty can ignite change. And if you see yourself in these struggles, perhaps anime isn't just fiction, it's a mirror reflecting the fight inside us all. Thanks for walking this stormy path with me. Let's hold on to that light even when shadows gather. Because sometimes the soul's sanctuary is found in stories like these, where heroes rise not despite their wounds, but because of them. The spotlight was stolen from the sub-key team's dramatic moves as Habaki himself arrived to end the pointless quarrel. After hearing everything from sub-key, Habaki advised him not to challenge these old-timers, especially now when the police force is struggling to root out a mole linked to the fake Solity case. That slap on the head totally staged by Solity himself. Yet Habaki still sided with Sub-Key, but he hoped the young Cho would tone down his chaos. Then, the blonde-haired hero returned to his comrades waiting outside with Team 3, guessing that this mess would drag in even more disasters. Yet what Team 3 had to focus on was protecting the city and capturing the looming threats. Meanwhile, Lei Yai was stuck at home playing the helpless husband role, as even Lei Yayu's news channel couldn't scoop any juicy updates. Suddenly, he hears the sneaky footsteps of some random stranger. Sure enough, Solity had come to the shrine of the god of poetry to verify some matters again. As usual, he rambled nonsense, while wandering until flying knives shot straight at his talkative mouth from behind. Solity easily blocked them with some cards like a pro, but, ironically, the welcoming party wasn't the shrine's guardians. From behind a wall, some random soldier from the Bin Chi-Ling tribe was watching Solity's every move. Deep below the real main character was lost in the haze, clueless about the chaos around him. Suddenly, the Shark Boy spotted letters scorched on the wall, slowly emerging in flames. The familiar chant of the firebug echoed again, awakening his sacred mark. He dreamt once more of the Empire's downfall, likely burdened by the Empire's harsh exploitation of his labor, his body now a skeleton of flesh. The shrine of the god of poetry had planned to aid the soldiers, but his master stopped him. The barriers holding them back had been broken, and his master refused to be buried alongside those imperial slaves. She sent another disciple to protect their allies instead. Before leaving, she warned the shrine to cherish his comrades. But that was a promise he couldn't keep, as his loved ones were soon executed. Fueled by a raging flame of hatred, the sacred mark unwittingly slaughtered countless soldiers of the church. As the shrine of the god of poetry wandered aimlessly, he reconnected with his closest friend. Thanks to Shark Boy's rough shaking and slaps, he snapped out of his daze and spotted the firebug's message etched on the wall beside him. Before he could investigate further, the firebug himself summoned him, feigning casual concern. He deliberately asked if the shrine of the god of poetry was a creation of Sabajamun. The moment this name dropped, the shrine's voice transformed into a cold, steely tone. Meanwhile, on the rooftop, Solity ranted madly, trying to identify who the Binchi Ling kid really was. Lei Yi approached coldly and struck Solity twice, but the latter narrowly dodged both blows. Proud of his evasions, Solity taunted only to face Lei Yi's hands morphing into lethal blades. Meanwhile, Taku's squad noticed the tension escalating around the shrine's house. A genius mind like his was scheming to maximize the gains from this chaotic battle. The firebug's robotic chatter left the shrine confused. Was this alien jargon or some interdimensional code? The firebug himself struggled with the strange terms from this other world. Activating his sacred sight, the shrine surveyed the unfolding chaos around him, stunned by what he saw atop the rooftop. After dodging Lei Yi's bizarre onslaught, the trickster Solity feigned composure, but inside, his heart raced faster than a jackhammer. Lei Yi suspected that Solity had come to claim the life of the divine temple, but for reasons unknown, he inquired if Solity was searching for someone named H. Soji, the center of recent drama. Solity, clueless about this name, seized it as an excuse to escape, claiming that H. Soji had done him a favor and he intended to bring some apples to cool his stomach. This statement led Lei Yi to deduce that the incident involving the puppet was orchestrated by H. Soji himself. In a moment of panic, Solity summoned the goddess of luck, desperately trying to navigate his blunders. Everything spiraled beyond his control, rendering his words nonsensical. Lei Yi decided to capture this troublemaker for interrogation, prompting the trickster to threaten him with a shocking surprise if he dared to approach. Naturally, only a child would believe such antics, and Lei Yi charged at him anyway. Talking nonsense, Lei Yi tried to grab this disaster of a guy to take him home for interrogation. But then the trickster king warned that if Lei Yi dared to rush at him, a big surprise would unfold. Of course, only a child would believe such antics, so Lei Yi charged straight at him anyway. And sure enough, a real surprise struck when Lemon suddenly leapt into the battlefield. To the world, this mummy-like figure was terrifying beyond words. But to ancient warriors like Solity, he was a stranger, because when Solity was arrested, guys like Soji and Lemon were just appearing on the scene. Lei Yi assumed the two disasters of Shinjuku were teaming up, but Taku never clarified the identities of his team members. Naturally, Jan's bodyguard didn't know Lemon was working for Taku either, and Taku had zero intention of sparing Lei Yi's life. So before sending Lemon on the mission, he gave strict orders. No matter how many knives Lei Yi threw, or how he tried to hold Lemon back, Lemon didn't care. Lei Yi was frustrated by this cold shoulder, and even unleashed his secret weapon, an electric shock, but it was useless. Lemon's sole focus was capturing Solity, the trickster king. Only now did Lei Yi realize he'd been played by Solity all along, a puppet in a twisted game. The chaos grew too tangled, so the bodyguard decided to punch the two fire-spitting disasters to silence their reckless chatter. Meanwhile, the electric god Thi Than Dien was questioned by the police. These two fire-spitters were Shaki's subordinates from Team 3 on patrol. They'd seen a young girl and a child wandering alone under the rain at midnight. Normal, the call dropped, deepening. Thi Than Dien's worry as figures tied to his old life started revealing themselves. Thi Than Dien refused to let anyone taint the things he held dear. Now this noisy bunch was about to stir trouble with the Holy Guild. Planning to unleash powerful magic to control the current chaos in this other world, Thi Than Dien's master Eilis was quietly smoking her pipe. Eilis and her tree spirit friend Zenka talked about her deep thoughts. Though Eilis claimed she was just reminiscing about the once glorious empire, Zenka sensed her sister's mind was on Thithandien, her disciple. Both were royal mages of the kingdom, the strongest in the court. Caught up in excitement, Zenka accidentally said too much, prompting Eilis to hush her noisy mouth. Even now, Eilis saw her disciple as a literal little devil, but respected his unique ability to synchronize with the spectral soldiers better than anyone else. That absolute trust in his comrades was Thithandien's core strength. He didn't mind if his peace was disturbed, but if anyone dared harm his friends, well, that was a problem no one wanted to face. Although still a kid in Eilis's eyes, Thithandien's spirit burned fiercely. She'd seen him struggle misunderstood by others, but his only magic was the demon eye, a gift and curse. Eilis, a masterful mentor, knew his climb to royal mage would be steep. Then came the name Sabarimon, the strongest royal mage in the empire, a legend who inspired both awe and tears. Sabarimon was like a living idol to the youth, powerful and influential, ruling the top ranks for centuries. For Thithandien, seeing Sabarimon was a smile that faded into tears. In Thithandien's world, Sabarimon wasn't just a rival. He was a symbol of what it meant to be the best. If those who once fought alongside Thithandien were all allies, why did he rage so fiercely? Because he feared anyone sullying his precious past, a fear that had become a shadow over him. Meanwhile, a gangster promised his boss no mistakes, like the blood executions of Hoso's inspector. His gang operated under Sabarimon's protection, linking the underworld to the surface, where a terrorist group planned their rise. Indeed, the power of the divine shrine had enveloped the building, drawing attention to disasters. 2 police officers remain wary of the girl in the raincoat, amidst the icy winter night, being cautious, as recent murders involved individuals wielding knives. Yet the girl in orange naturally responds that she's out searching for her dog, just as she mentions that her father, Kangi, has arrived to pick her up. The 2 inspectors can only chuckle awkwardly, as only the divine shrine knows that this father-daughter duo is up to something. In this area, there are no dogs to be found. The aura of the girl and the figure on the rooftop resembles that of a fortune-telling client. They both inquire about the Empire's symbol, while drawing lots, suggesting that their interest is far from coincidental. The divine shrine must expand its reach. The shrine's influence now nearly blankets the entire city of Shinjuku. Recalling the early days of his exposure to this magic, from Eilis, he remembers how this magic ensnares those without demon eyes into illusions and leads targets astray. Initially, the divine shrine could only cover a small area around his body, but his master reassured him that with diligent practice, he would eventually blanket the entire city. At long last, all the hard work bore fruit. Both the police officers downstairs and the other disasters sensed the atmosphere shift around them. To protect their identities, the divine shrine summoned invisible hands to assist. Wysilit felt danger nearing, prompting him to swiftly eliminate Lemon and escape. Suddenly, his card was blocked by an unseen force. However, both Lemon and Wysilit chose not to act, the situation still tense. Yet Lemon remained determined to capture the fraudster king, despite the invisible hands grabbing at his legs and tugging at his clothing. If the hands were ineffective, the divine shrine would activate the VIP summon for the invisible hands. Wysilit threw a smoke bomb to escape the relentless pursuer, launching a barrage of balloons into the sky to transport him away from the battle. But once again he felt something creeping up behind him. Takkez sipping coffee was interrupted by a bodyguard reporting the situation. There was something he wanted Takkez to witness directly, as he too was suspicious of what was happening. As Wysilit flew like a bird, he noticed the flame-spewing insect also appeared in the area. He was thrilled, as he was close to uncovering the illusions he had pursued for years. The invisible hands of the divine shrine had evolved into colossal hands, racing toward Lemon and Phantom to capture one of the 2 valuable sources of information. Wysilit had just dispatched a balloon that deflated to escape the grasp of these hands, pondering whether they were connected to the skeletal hands seen at the daycare fire. He vowed to return and expose the true identity of the divine shrine. A hand emerged from the white smoke, nearly catching him. It belonged to Lemon, who failed his mission to capture Wysilit for the 4-eyed boss. Lemon was a person Wysilit never wished to encounter again, mainly due to his stubbornness. Both disasters managed to make their escape. Meanwhile, the divine shrine was fortunate enough to evade the flame-spewing insect. However, he was unaware that this reckless stunt would attract more dangers in the future, as someone had recorded the scene of the hands emerging from the divine shrine's building. This clip became a viral sensation online, providing keyboard heroes with plenty of work in the days to come. Shaki and Carissa had just received news from the chaotic battle involving the three divine beings. Misa awoke at midnight, only to faint again until morning. A girl cosplaying as a character from a hellish X movie, a genre beloved by hardcore fans, hosted the program with a delightful charm despite the many viewers, including the infamous 2D girl, Sim G, who happened to be sipping water while watching. He noticed her approaching the base where the team worked, and unexpectedly, the cosplayer captured footage of the divine shrine's hands from her rooftop, causing him to choke on his drink. The next morning, the divine shrine's base resembled a bustling marketplace, with police officers and various onlookers crowded around, eager for the latest gossip. Sabaki felt quite awkward because the house owner was none other than Kisa, the person he least wanted to confront during this tense moment. Two assassins hunting Wysilit also showed up at Kisa's place to apply for jobs, despite recently failing a crucial mission that left Hio and Jean unemployed. But this pair still boasted their strength. Jean inadvertently criticized the boss's age, only to be seized by one of her subordinates. Watching the girl struggle against King Kong's grip was undeniably cute. Thus, Kaya agreed to let the two work for her, as there would be plenty to do soon. In just one night, the divine shrine had transformed the peaceful life he longed for into chaos, as he faced inquiries from keyboard heroes and shark enthusiasts about his reckless actions from the previous night. Some citizens began to believe that these phenomena weren't mere Photoshop tricks. The divine shrine surmised that both Lemon and Wysilit possessed the powerful VIP abilities of the divine seal. As for Wysilit, he was uncertain. In truth, he was also trying to reach out to Rose to discuss an important piece of information. Wysilit had previously sought a reading from the divine seal regarding his soul's colour, along with the guardian spirit of the girl in the wheelchair. Foolish actions from last night had stirred the public to believe these strange events weren't just Photoshop tricks. The Thandien guessed both Lemon and Solity drew their VIP power from the Holy Guild. As for Lei Yi, uncertainty lingered. Lei Yi himself tried reaching Rosen for answers. Crucially, Solity had once come here to request a divination from the Holy Guild. His soul, linked with the guardian spirit of a girl in a wheelchair, left no room for doubt. The orange-haired girl in the raincoat remained a mystery, no cracks showing yet. And the father figure, Kudujia, immediately thought of the legendary sugar, but explaining that to Thithandien would take half a day, so better to move on. Shudujia couldn't understand why these disasters, including the fire spitters, gathered here, spewing nonsense that made the Holy Guild lose control. Sabah Ramon, the fire-spitting mage, was the Empire's strongest royal mage. Recalling his early days, Thithandien had been scolded by his master for lack of talent. His only power was the demon eye, and his clever master pushed him hard. Though Thithandien dreamed of rising to royal mage, seeing Sabaramon appear shattered that hope, the smile fading to tears. In his world, Sabaramon was an idol, strong, powerful, and enduring for centuries. For Thithandien, this was a harsh truth. If all those who once fought alongside Thithandien were friends, why did he rage? Because he feared anyone tarnishing the precious past. He cherished a deep-seated fear. A gangster promised his boss no mistakes like past executions. His crew worked under Sabaramon's wing. Meanwhile, underground brothers prepared to rise, their slogan, "Become a bullet to pierce your heart." But before they could reach fame, assassin Momo wiped them out like swatting flies. Sitting atop the fallen terrorists, Momo chatted with a teammate who had just sent another group to the afterlife. Both emerged unscathed from the mission. Next, Momo's target was Shinjuku's idol, Solity. Finally, Lei Yi reached Rosen by phone, who kept pressing about boycott Bijosian's abilities. Calmly, Rosen asked if the Holy Guild had been touched yet. If not, why stress Rosen had known all along, but revealing it to a reckless bodyguard would only cause trouble. Lei Yi fell silent, understanding why Rosen trusted and protected Boycott. Rosen believed deeply in the one who saved his child, and advised Lei Yi to confront Boycott directly. If Thieth and Dien refused to tell the truth, Rosen himself would flip 180 degrees. From afar, Momo recognized the boy he once crippled, admiring his stubborn resilience. Meanwhile, Heya Ek, standing under the Thieth and Dien group's base, spotted a familiar face as Boy sank into despair over harming his brothers. Both he and his comrades emerged unscathed from the last mission. Momo's next task awaited in Shinjuku City, involving his idol Soliti. At last, Lei Yi managed to call Rosen, who kept pressing about Boykop's abilities. Rosen coolly replied, "Has anyone dared to ruffle a hair on him? If not, why get so worked up?" Rosen had known everything from the start, but warned that if he spilled secrets to the clumsy bodyguard, trouble would surely follow. Lei Yi was stunned as he grasped Rosen's meaning. He trusted and protected Boykop deeply. Rosen believed in the man who saved his own child, and advised Lei Yi to ask Boykop directly. If the Sacred Sword Hall refused to reveal the truth, Rosen himself would turn 180 degrees. Apologies, his name was Momo. From afar, he could still recognize the kid he once begged for a favor, admiring the unwavering determination of the proud family. Kura stood firm beneath the base of the Divine Spirits group, his eyes catching a familiar face. The once vibrant boy was now shrouded in despair, burdened by the guilt of dragging his brothers into chaos. But then, Misaki burst through the door, a whirlwind of energy bringing a mischievous spirit to the Divine Spirits. She had just brought in a renowned reporter. This journalist, known by the nickname The Truth Seeker, was someone Ra could hardly believe had entered their midst. If you're not aware, this reporter stands among the elite, having uncovered numerous explosive stories, from political scandals to youth idols. She was someone the Divine Spirits group should avoid at all costs, and yet here was Misaki bringing this formidable figure right to their doorstep. It seemed this audacious reporter wanted to test the resilience of Kura's team. As the Divine Spirits began to assert their presence, they revealed themselves as true outlaws in front of her. Luckily, the universe had smiled upon Kura, giving him a moment to salvage the situation. But Misaki was no pushover. She retaliated by threatening Kura with revealing secrets that could expose his past. The tension escalated as Misaki aimed to expose the information about Kura's past, a once brilliant prodigy who had built his own software company at just 14. Unfortunately, that company was snatched away by ruthless competitors who even coerced Kura's family to withdraw from the scene willingly. Misaki highlighted how much effort she had expended to secure this opportunity, citing evidence of the recent chaos engulfing the Divine Spirits. The male lead had only agreed to an interview with her concerning divination, but to maintain objectivity, he requested a neighbor to join and observe. Kura had warned her to tread carefully, reminding her not to stir things up unnecessarily. Suddenly overwhelmed by the flood of information, she hesitated. She tried to pry details about the fire-spitting bug's writing, but luckily Misaki was silenced just in time. Meanwhile, Kyudu played his usual sly tricks. This information had been around for a while, and Choco couldn't believe it, as the markings were still too fresh. Meanwhile, Liam Min managed to escape successfully, to report to Takkazu. The four-eyed man requested Liam to lay low for a while as several organizations began to take notice. Takkazu assigned the task of tracking down Solity to Tai B in collaboration with Hei to crush the small gaming addict lurking in the corner. They needed to be cautious of the police, as those were the real demons. The director of the police department also began to take note of their actions. Choco was very excited to report to the editor-in-chief that there would soon be a lot of juicy news. Indeed, even before anything happened, Momo had already taken the head of the unfortunate bartender to make the opening shot. The bartender at Kisa was cursing the name Nisida for ruining his night with mandatory overtime, but boss Carissa was still very generous, promising to reward him for his dedication with some fine liquor. However, it was Carissa who sent someone to investigate Nisida's house, suspecting he had been silenced. After Momo completed the mission, the broker was already on site, and the assignment was given by someone within the Divine Temple. This revelation shook Sheki and Jatu into despair. No clues to track Solity. The only puzzling question was why Solity sought out the place of the Divine Spirit. Lost in thought, Zhao suddenly spotted a tall young man, NBA player, height familiar to AGC, who also knew the name linked to this towering figure. The man in the hat belonged to an organization AGC once crushed, yet he escaped unscathed. The blonde assumed this case unrelated to their current pursuit. But Higo's escape was different. He's Kuzura's close friend and now working with the Divine Mark. Higo's group was transporting Nisida's corpse when some local punks tried to extort them. Higo suddenly asked these junkies if they had anyone dear to them. The fledgling gang mocked him, but that was their death sentence. Higo fired 3 precise shots into the bellies of 3 ruthless boys. Why ask about loved ones? Because Higo feared revenge. Luckily, he could send these unlucky fools back to the earth without worrying about retribution. Momura wanted to know why his old comrade was killed by these thugs. The simple truth: Higo's friend once accidentally crossed paths with the wrong people, and the entire gang was wiped out. Now, caution was paramount as they hunted the secret path that had existed for years. Nisida had just realized someone took his life. Calling out to his friend Ugai, who remained silent, he recalled the name who once helped him gain the ability to pass through walls. Suddenly, the sly Foxcho led Ugai from Kaja's bar to the Divine Spirit group for a fortune-telling session. Only Kudujiya recognized the commoner's name, and by their expressions the 2 reporters knew they didn't remember either. Ugai resigned himself to fate as the fortune-tellers cast a divination for him. Initially, Ugai planned to expose his cruel boss, forcing overtime, but fearing he might not see the new year, he changed his question. Ugai suddenly felt the weight of the world on his shoulders, but the Divine Spirit saw it as normal. A giant question mark appeared over Ugai's face, prompting the next inquiry. He wanted to know why his friend cut out. The Divine Spirit, hearing this, wanted to confirm whether Nisida was truly his kin. With a serious expression, Kaya's group also discovered Nisida had been kidnapped by some organization, sparking their worry. Nisida was about to reveal the Divine Spirit's secret abilities. However, the only one who knew his secret was the timid young bartender Ugai. Even he felt chills when the Divine Spirit mentioned Nisida had encountered a critical crisis. Indeed, Nisida stood clutching his head in agony. Nearby, Ugai wished to send a message about his plight to his colleague, Kaja, at the bar, who had just heard the news. The corrupt police planned to use Nisida's identity to reenact a heist from 5 years ago by Hosoji. Momura sat sipping, watching the rain, waiting for the police to find Nisida's body. Lei, on a shopping trip for shark products to please, Sao pondered how to approach the Divine Spirit. He worried Sao would discover his assassin clan origins, but as he arrived, twin assassins Saki and As stood ready, studying Soliti's trail. Before they could question him, another police squad arrived on a mission, searching for the missing bartender from Carissa's bar. But why choose Carissa's own building for their search? Momura and Higu observed from the opposite building, sure these 2 were behind it. Higu also spotted AG Black, who once carried his entire organization before joining Juventus Kuju. Sitting on the rooftop, they noticed something odd: the dirty cops were not from Shinjuku. They quickly knocked on the Divine Spirit's door, urging everyone to leave. The dirty cops accused Nisida of involvement in a robbery, needing to investigate the house. Nisida's clueless expression betrayed his innocence. Cho, sensing juicy news, pleaded with the dirty cop to let her see the photos. As she stalled, the police used Hosoji's alert to warn the Divine Spirit of something suspicious. This mirrored the event when Hosoji disappeared 5 years ago, prompting the Divine Spirit to check the basement beneath the building. Just as Hosoji predicted, Nisida's body lay hidden in the basement. If the dirty cops succeeded, the Divine Spirit's peaceful life would vanish like smoke. Soliti once advised his foolish disciples to honestly assess their strength. Now the Divine Spirit felt he could make a breakthrough to save the day. But when the cops reached the basement, no trace of the body was found. The intel reported both senior officers were left empty-handed. Clearly someone had orchestrated this. Kidu also received news that the Divine Spirit and his team had been forced out of their home. At the scene, Hen recalled discovering a secret passage beneath the basement, leading to another building when he first moved in. Such passages were common in the Empire, so he paid little mind. But now it was clear someone wanted to trap them, or the building's owner was Carissa. The twin assassins, Saki and As, still lurked outside the Divine Spirit's home. Suspecting this was all set up by some faction, Subak guessed these dirty tricks were probably arranged by someone mirroring the day Hosoji disappeared. He also found some clues in the basement then. Meanwhile, Taibei, patrolling the area, stumbled upon a faulty shark product from the Taibei family. Planning to assert his authority over Lei Taibei, was caught by Masaki, who took Lei back. The shark goods Lei bought made Sao very happy. Everyone was settled, so Misaki decided to return to put Taibei in his place, to stop him from acting high and mighty like earlier. The dreams of the divine temple would turn to smoke. Soliti had warned the foolish disciples to accurately assess their capabilities. The divine temple felt that it could do something groundbreaking to salvage the situation. When the police arrived at the scene, they found no trace of a body at all. The information just reported indicated that both high-ranking individuals had vanished, as everything had clearly been orchestrated. Kazu had just received intel that the Divine Temple and its team had been forced out of their home. He remembered the first time he moved here, discovering a secret passage in the basement leading to another building. However, such passages were quite common in the Empire, so he didn't pay much attention. Now it seemed someone wanted to set a trap for them, or perhaps the owner of the building, Carissa, was behind it. The deadly duo Shaki and Ars were still lurking outside the Divine Temple's residence. Subak had predicted that these tricks might have been arranged by someone much like the day Hoso disappeared. He also found a few clues in the basement while Taibei was patrolling the area, and stumbled upon a defective product from his family. Taibei was about to show off his superiority to Yi, only to be caught by Misaki, who then led Yi back to see the shark items he had purchased, which made her very happy. All the members were seated comfortably, so Misaki decided to return to confront Taibei, ensuring he wouldn't act cocky like before. Momo, looking down from a high vantage point, saw all the big players gathered in one place. This piqued his interest even more as he prepared for upcoming missions in Shinjuku. Finally, the Saints-skilled group managed to escape from the 81st disaster. Choco, at the editorial office, was getting an earful from the editor-in-chief. The reason her instinct led her to interview locations that never returned. The editor-in-chief wanted to assign this case to someone else, but, of course, Choco refused to yield this drama to anyone else. Due to her stubbornness, the editor-in-chief had to threaten her, stating she could only gather intel about fortune-telling this time. Meanwhile, Ku was once again burdened with the weight. Finally, he had to do something useful for the Divine Temple, aside from just lounging around with the beautiful ones. She asked Lawai to help gather a pile of raw gems to enhance her strength, a way to repay him for saving the timid uncle. Lawai, who was eavesdropping, suddenly lost her train of thought. Why was the imposter a benefactor to the favoured child of Arjian? Meanwhile, Kazu's plan to use the gems left him surprised. Moreover, Ku was also considering how to deal with the body of Nira. The mysterious disappearance of a colleague would leave the young Ugai on edge for many days to come. By now, the player system Xuan knew that Ugai was Kaja's subordinate, but he couldn't care less. While they were enthusiastically discussing, Ku suddenly had to rush, as the celestial couple was already overdue, though Shaken Lei prepares a lavish dinner for the group. Just then, Shaki strides straight to the Shrine of Death, confronting the reason Solity came here. Thankfully, this new map taught them not to reveal secrets. But Subak Ki is relentless, so he asks men how to contact the Elder Hoso. The Shrine of Death unleashes a fiery chest attack on the girls, and Shaki, furious, Shaki dared to distrust the fortune-teller's word. Though men know Shaki's eager revealing too much will be a double-edged sword. One day secrets spilled will become a blade that the Shrine of Death can no longer wield. Ho! So advises the blonde to revisit the paper from before. Meanwhile, Kuju, the hero, thought escaping Sabak Ki and Axe was possible. But life's cruel. Just as the doorbell rings, Kuju spots his friend Higo waiting outside. Before he can react, Momo appears with his 2-meter sword pressed against the unlucky Sabak Ki's neck. On the way back to headquarters with the Dark Clan, they know the next step is to study the clues. But both must keep their movements secret. There's likely a spy within the billion-strong ranks. Meanwhile, the unlucky Kuju is captured and faces an old teammate. Higo brandishes several pens probing how far Kuju's uncovered the Nisa Ada case. The first pen pierces Kuju's thigh. Higo knows Kuju's pretending to be a fool, so pain will coax the truth. The second pen digs deeper, forcing Kuju into agony. The cunning Higo knows Kuju's greatest weakness is fear of pain, so he plunges in more pens, determined to extract info on Carissa. But he didn't count on Misaki crashing through the glass to save her comrade. Kaja warned Misaki her keyboard warrior skills might rival game-hacking powers. Misaki holds Momo at bay, their blows clashing fiercely. Feeling pain made it easier to extract accurate information. The next pen was plunged into Kuzu's thigh, causing him to writhe in agony. The rabbit Higo knew that Kuzu's fear of pain was his greatest weakness, so he jabbed in a few more pens, certain he would extract information about Carissa. However, he did not expect Misaki to break through the window to rescue her teammate. Kaja had warned Misaki, noticing the keyboard warrior was likely envious of his game-hacking skills. Misaki temporarily pushed Momo away as they exchanged blows until Momo decided to retaliate with 20 years of experience. Misaki easily leaped into the air to dodge the attack, but everything was already part of the assassin's plan. He dodged Misaki's iron rod and sliced her in half, a truly horrifying sight. Meanwhile, the cowardly Higo took advantage of the chaos to inject a tranquilizer into Kuzu and carry him away. Before moving him, he reported this incident to someone lightly mentioning the name Saba Zaman. But Misaki wasn't done yet. The Divine Temple had upgraded her race thanks to the gems from a ghost. She had now become a vampire, and this was how Kazu protected his teammates from impending doom. Lawaiyi was also tailing the vehicle, carrying Kuzu away, while Misaki had fully recovered and jumped straight onto Higo's vehicle. 10 years ago, Kaya had tried to bring a smile to Misaki, who had just lost her family. Misaki recalled the moment when Jimba had just killed her parents while smiling like it was harvest season. From then on, taking down criminals with a bright smile became her trademark. But just as she managed to grip the car roof, Momo slammed down on it, throwing Misaki off balance. But it didn't matter, because now Misaki had the divine mark giving her wings to glide after Higo's vehicle in excitement. Finally, Misaki found joy in saving others instead of skewering someone. Kuzu was once again being interrogated, this time more surprisingly, by a higher-up. The Axa clan was one of the deadliest assassin families everyone avoided. Even the rabbit prince Higo knew of these killers and lived with the secret sect. The one monitoring the situation from above was none other than Li Wai. Actually, Li Wai had just happened to visit Kuzu's place to plant a bug, gathering intel on Neela's corpse. Unexpectedly, enemies arrived ready to maim Kuzu again. Down below, Kuzu's mind was tormented. Higo knew his friend used to be good-hearted, but after countless betrayals, he wore a fake mask to escape his cruel fate. Theory covered, now it was time for Higo to play the Grim Reaper, pointing a gun at Kuzu's head. Kaja at the tavern was sure the kid had been taken, but she wasn't worried about Kuzu spilling the organization's secrets. Now, Kuzu had something far more precious to protect than his own skin. Even after taking a bullet in the leg and enduring Higo's threats, Kuzu defiantly taunted him, refusing to let fear take root. Knowing he'd be resurrected by the secret sect as some kind of freak, Kuzu's resilience surprised Higo. The assassin had to change tactics, pouring miso paste into the wound, twisting the screwdriver to silence Kuzu's defiant mouth. But the mistake was mentioning using Sao as a hostage if Kuzu died. That forced Li Wai's hand. He had to save the keyboard warrior and challenge anyone daring to harm the Sino family. Meanwhile, Zama, Shaki, and Azaz reported arriving at the Divine Shrine to investigate for Habaki. He promised no trouble, especially with AGZ by his side. If things went south, the Black family would be the first to jump in. Director Taku was working when he heard a knock. Peeking out, no ghost in sight. Turning back, surprise-struck Solity was already seated in his chair, ready to unveil the dark truths of the police force. Soliti compared the image of the two-faced Jia card to Director Taku's double life. At the warehouse, where Kuzu was just saved by Li Wai from Higo's gun, Kuzu still couldn't believe Li Wai was a deadly assassin from the infamous Hei family. Zambabar's questions about origins could wait. Right now, Kuzu was about to expose those with ill intent. He lunged at Momo Ra, beating him with iron rods from his robotic hands, but the enemy blocked effortlessly. Momo Ra noticed the Hei boy's trembling legs and took the chance to mention his own sister, the very one who turned Li Wai from a full-bodied human into a robot warrior. Momoji's clan had long studied the Hei family's assassination techniques like a textbook, so Kuzu wasn't fazed. But Momoji's fatal mistake was thinking Li Wai's trembling was fear. In truth, he was gathering strength from his legs. In a flash, Li Wai shot backward at terrifying speed, aiming right behind Momo Ra. The monster barely reacted in time. Li Wai soared up, smashing all the lights to dim Momo Ra's vision. Even in darkness, Momo-Ra matched Li Wai's bullet-like speed. At the moment, Momo-Ra faltered. Li Wai blasted a dazzling light into his eyes, blinding him temporarily. If Li Wai wasn't so overwhelmed by family pressure to attach prosthetics, he wouldn't have been caught off guard and thrown sky-high by Momo-Ra. Just a second more, and he'd be dismembered by Momo-Ra's kin. Suddenly, a familiar laugh rang out, followed by a kick smashing Momo-Ra into the wall. Misaki had returned. After witnessing the boy save Kuzu's life, she chose to stand with Li Wai. Higo, who had been smirking during the fight, now felt a chill. That crazy kid was chopped into two by Momo-Ra, yet still stood unfazed. Momo-Ra wasn't down yet. He tore Misaki's dress, ready for a brutal showdown with these tough fighters. In a flash, he nearly sliced Li Wai with his long sword. True to her reckless nature, Misaki charged headlong at the beast. Even after 2 retaliatory slashes, she dodged nimbly, but sensed this opponent was no easy prey. Misaki turned to Li Wai, proposing a truce. What puzzled Momo-Ra was that logically, his attacks should have bruised her stomach before reaching Li Wai, but Li Wai hadn't felt a heartbeat from this fearless ally. Thanks to the VIP version of the Divine Shrine gifted to Misaki, she gained resurrection powers and could transform her body into a deadly weapon. A new deadly duo emerged to counter Momo-G. But both had to watch out for his phantom armor, conjured by bizarre battle stances. Misaki wanted to test her own attack range, so she swung her bonus arm, an unexpected strike that tore a deep wound in Momo-G's belly. The attack was so surreal, Momo-G started wondering if this hyperactive girl was the elusive Soliti's second. Back at the Divine Shrine, Sao urged telling Li Wai everything. Suddenly, Hosodo-D tapped him to ask a favor at the police station. Soliti tried to confuse Takusu, but his face remained an unreadable mask. Meanwhile, Shaki analyzing clues with Acer was disrupted by a call. Picking up, he heard a thoroughly cheesy voice, but none other than Hoso's unmistakable style. The Queen of News was also digging into incidents around the Divine Shrine. Somehow she stumbled on info about Boss Carissa, the building's owner, who had once been kidnapped but was fortunately rescued by Inspector Hosodo-D. Back at the Divine Shrine, Hosoji's destined call to Shaki left the blonde still disbelieving he heard his beloved senior's voice once more. All thanks to the Divine Shrine lending Hoso-D the form of a pigeon to chat freely. He tried explaining his current predicament, but how could he make sense of this tangled life? The story's web thickens between sacred seals, deadly clans, and unexpected alliances. If you've ever felt powerless, like these warriors, take a breath and ask yourself, how do I find light in my darkest battles? Because sometimes what we need isn't strength, but someone who believes in us just once. Thanks for sharing this journey with me. The blonde-haired guy might picture this as a comedic scene, but Hosodoji's real mission was serious, calling his subordinates to explain the ominous note. He had warned Shaki before the enemy, who once pleaded for his life, is about to strike again. The first suspect on his list, before targeting the naked chicken, was someone from within the police force. Hearing this shocking revelation, Shaki still couldn't believe it. Was it really true? Meanwhile, Soliti was interrogating someone he suspected to be a worm inside the police. Taku couldn't even grasp why the so-called king of deception was branded a traitor. Indeed, it baffled him. Why would such a man betray? He came just to question a high-ranking figure like Police Commissioner Misaki. Meanwhile, the twin assassins had just finished hashing out their strategy. But Lei had doubts about this half-baked plan you just heard, yet there was no other choice. So both sides plunged back into the fray. Misaki was assigned to defend against Momo, a top-tier assassin whose skills quickly seized Misaki's collar. At this close range, missing a strike was impossible, but that's only when fighting an ordinary person. Misaki had split his body, allowing Lei to plunge several fatal blows directly into Momo's body. He even carefully added a jolt of electricity to finish him off. Lei analysed why his attack pierced the reckless, bloodthirsty enemy, and could hear the sound of wings falling. Suddenly, Ku remembered that the timid rabbit assassin Higo had vanished. He was a coward fleeing the subway tracks at the first whiff of danger, abandoning his comrades. He needed to report the strange events he had witnessed to someone. At that exact moment, Jasu's phone rang, but he immediately hung up. Hoso also revealed that the person on his blacklist was a veteran officer, so he warned Subak not to trust anyone, not even the closest team members. Hearing this from his senior, Subak felt somewhat reassured because he still believed Hoso Doji was alive. Still, he wondered if the insider was actually himself. How would his mentor react? Surely Hoso would cosplay as Trandan and shoot a bullet straight through Subak's heart. Even after hanging up, Subak recounted the insider issue to Aziz, always trusting the special task force under his command. While they were chatting, another call came in. The blonde thought it was his senior, reminding him again, but this time it was the eccentric Soliti. Knowing about the conversation between Sharky and Judge Hosoji, he intended to reveal the insider's identity within the Thandian Sazo group's base. They scolded Hosoji for giving Shaki false hope, yet he just wished his junior would stay on the right path. The duo Shaki and AZX now stood on the brink of exposing the truth after Soliti's call. The individuals from the unique team he led were chatting away when yet another phone call came in. The blonde-haired man thought his senior had forgotten to remind him of something, but this time it was the oddball Soliti. He knew about the conversation between Sharky and Judge Hosoji, and was about to reveal the identity of the mole within the Divine Temple's base. Despite his unease, he only hopes that his junior will walk the right path. The duo of Shaki and AZX stands at the brink of uncovering the truth after receiving a call from the mysterious Soliti. Meanwhile, Jasu is persistently receiving prank calls, driving Mr. Toji through frustration to kick him out and answer the phone to find some peace. But could it be that the culprit is hiding behind all this darkness? The truth, however, is far more explosive. The one truly enraged is none other than Jiao, furious at her sibling for daring to call him while he was ablaze with anger. The real perpetrator. It's none other than committee member Habaki, the very person Subki has always regarded as his benefactor. The tune of the fire-spitting beetle echoes throughout the police station, signifying his presence. Momo's older sister has also begun her own mission to save her reckless younger brother from the intense rivalry between him, Kosu, and the mysterious Soliti. Soliti continues to push through, and at this point the board director finally realizes that this man is merely an unintentional visitor, lacking any ulterior motives. A phone call from another disaster awaits, and Mr. Toji wants Soliti to listen in. The caller, none other than the infamous Trung from the grocery store. The reason Taku contacted the grocery store was to uncover the one who turned the police station into a chaotic mess. The first piece of news from the grocery store is that Shaki is in touch with Inspector Hoso, creating shockwaves for both Director Toji and Soliti, as they learn this character is still alive. The most crucial revelation in this order is that police officer Habaki, known as the Pillar of Strength in the precinct, is linked to the Shibu broker recently. With all secrets laid bare, the tension rises. The first move by the conniving kingpin was to buy back the phone, making it easier to contact the grocery store. But let's set that aside. The director Taku handed him full control over how to handle this explosive information to keep his hands clean. Yet, in the end, Soliti borrowed the power of the duo Shaki and Ars to take down the dirty cop. Meanwhile, Kudu's family managed to alert Boykar about the looming threat from these dark forces. Suddenly, Leyi heard the faint sound of a street performance passing by, though in truth it was Firebug arriving to check on them. This fiery figure had appeared at the police station to eliminate Sabon's illegitimate offspring. Many victims under hypnosis were advancing Rejmonjin, ready to punish the sins left behind by Sabon's legacy. Amidst this chaos, Us suddenly noticed cryptic words etched on the ceiling Firebug's signature mark. Lately, they kept colliding with one disaster after another, but Subki felt their streak of bad luck was even darker than a shadow. Firebug's symbol also appeared in the warehouse where the fierce battle between the Divine God Group and Momoji unfolded. Momoji's sister appeared at the warehouse to convince Firebug that her brother was not Sabon's illegitimate child. After some persuasion, Firebug allowed them free passage, sparing the hypnotized civilians. But in contrast, the assassin pair Ajus and Shaki weren't so lucky. A gang of youths kept trying to barge in, fighting tooth and nail with Habaki, who was pushing back fiercely. Behind them, Us spotted figures wielding laser beams aimed at the monstrous Soliti, offering protection in exchange for the director's favor. Under pressure, Director Taku reluctantly revealed some truths about Firebug. Firebug wasn't just a lone entity. He was more like a sorcerer fused with cutting-edge technology and laser beams. Those struck by Firebug's lasers were the fuel for his scorching wrath. The blonde-haired man kicked the manipulated crowd outside, then sprayed a fire extinguisher inside to save the chubby fellow, though that man was still arguing on his phone. Sabaki recalled a technique his master Iemi once described using gamma rays to burn an opponent. This only deepened Sabaki's dilemma on how to deal with the lethal Habaki. Meanwhile, Lei Yi and Kao also noticed the absence of the wandering street performers and sensed a new enemy creeping inside. Yet one presence remained undetectable, the very person who had stolen Lei Yi's limbs. Once again, she sent a chilling message requesting another prosthetic arm. The story then shifts to Lei Yi's first assassination mission. But as he arrived, his target vanished, a ruthless act by the Axa assassins, who, impressed by the boy's potential and undeniable cuteness, decided to recruit him. The top assassin's recruitment method, demanding Lei Yi's 2 arms and legs first, claiming they would hate the kid before coming to save him. Lei Yi now harbours deep resentment towards the Axa members, and equally despises the madwoman who stole his mobility. He's become the thunderstorm guarding the Shinozama house until his last breath, igniting fiery rage because his plans were foiled by a third party's interference. Despite being battered, Momora laughed. After 10 years chasing Lei Yi, she remained rejected. But maybe she should keep quiet. Maddie was truly seething. In truth, Maddie's real obsession wasn't Lei Yi, but the reckless Momoji. Just mentioning Momoji earned her a blow from Misaki, only for Maddie to block it with her teeth. Misaki was sliced in half, but luckily recovered thanks to the VIP Divine God's power. Her illusion magic tempted Maddie to recruit her into the clan. Yet, with Momoji's brother in a dire state, Maddie's group had to retreat. After the fierce battle, even Misaki admitted this new figure's strength rivaled the Divine God when they first met. That alone reveals just how formidable Magi truly is. Meanwhile, Habaki at the police station unveiled his final trump card, transforming into a stone guardian, while under the influence of drugs turning his body into a giant blue colossus. He raved incoherently, leaving AGX and Xbaki baffled. But the bigger problem, Firebug's forces were closing in fast. How would the blonde hero handle this? Back home, the Divine God was enjoying a thunderstorm, with Saru sensing the rare presence of a lightning spirit. In this world, those who try to wield the lightning spirit's power usually share the same fate, except for a few prodigies discovered by his master. Someone stood atop a roof absorbing bolts of lightning, eagerly awaiting the supernatural phenomena occurring recently in Juku. And more than that, the red-haired man and his 2 companions were likely deeply connected to the Empire's emblem in the Divine God's old world. Recall when Subki was harshly reprimanded by Commissioner Habaki for probing the mysterious disappearance of Senior Officer Hosodo. Habaki declared he would do his utmost to atone for his deceased daughter's legacy. Sounds noble, but now as a Stone Guardian fleeing, Habaki shockingly confessed he sold his beloved daughter's secrets for this position. Habaki hurled a metal cabinet at Shaki, but A.G. Den kicked it away for his comrade. Still, this drugged villain was no match for Lem Minjutsu, who arrived with Team 3 to back their boss. Yet, this gave Habaki the chance to contact his allies, to summon reinforcements. However, he was slammed to the ground by the old boss as things seemed to quiet down. But misfortune struck again. A dirty cop arrived with a gun to support the Stone Guardian's escape plan, aiming to shoot the old boss. Ju kicked him aside just in time. Habaki seized the moment to flee the station, while his accomplice chose suicide over revealing secrets. The hypnotized victims returned to normal, thanks to Soliti's hints and the unfolding 80-second calamity just endured. And so the storm of chaos rages on, weaving a tapestry of betrayal, hidden alliances, and the relentless fight for justice. In this world where light and shadow clash, every choice carves a path towards salvation or ruin. What will our heroes sacrifice next to protect the fragile hope flickering in the darkness? It seems Sheki has finally glimpsed the harsh truth behind the fake power of the fire-spitting boss Old Man 2. While Ji is chasing the suspect alongside Jiao, the boss makes a bold move, ordering them to split up and search on their own. Then, he quietly makes a call, alerting someone in the shadows. Meanwhile, Dathu, having slipped through the police's grasp, encounters a mysterious figure he reveres as his superior. This red-haired young man is none other than the one who cut the power at the police station. He questions Habaki's contributions to their organization, including the heart-wrenching sacrifice of his own daughter as an experimental subject. But instead of praise, Habaki earns a painful reward, a punch from his daughter, now a petite yet fierce girl. After 77 grueling experiments, she has transformed into a six-pack powerhouse, her rank in Soza now surpassing even Habaki's. Her deepest wish to personally send her old man to the afterlife for throwing her into hell. Her body bears scars like battle maps, and she vows to repay every single one to that wretched father of hers. She kicks off her vengeance by shoving Habaki, breaking his arm, as the opening act of her retribution. One of the mysterious man's allies watches this intense family reunion unfold eyes wide with fascination. Meanwhile, G continues a relentless barrage of punches straight to her sick father's face. Despite being subjected to countless cruel experiments, she secretly hoped Habaki would visit her even once. If that moment came, she promised to let go of all hatred and spare him. But this cold-blooded man has no intention of showing up. Desperate to escape the torment, Habaki finally pleads with his superior for a chance to start anew. Before anything can change, the assassin duo Hero and Jine, new recruits to Sep Carissa's gang, deliver a fatal blow to Habaki with a piercing shot. It's all part of Sep Carissa's plan to avenge the death of her senior Hosoji. With Habaki gone, Sep Carissa's vendetta gains momentum. As for G now, with permission to hunt the two snipers, she swiftly pursues the brothers. G disarms Jine, catching the siblings off guard as they brace for a knockout punch that would eject them from this world. Luckily, Carissa anticipated the attack and sent reinforcements to escort Jine safely. Though a bit snarky, Jine removes his mask to express gratitude. That cute, cheesy smile, it's impossible not to melt. But G already senses the clock ticking. Higher-ups have noticed the commotion. Forced to abandon her target, G retreats. Meanwhile, Kaya arrives at the shrine late at night, eager to glean intel about Hosoji. She learns that Ran and Sao are already privy to all of Kaja's secrets. Rather than blame her, they caution the shrine guardian to keep Kaja's secrets safe. Elsewhere, Tai-Bai makes a call to Tak-Zu, reporting Carissa's presence. They decide to stay put, waiting for the right moment to act. Carissa's main mission today is to ask the shrine guardian for a favour. As for Sao, she has a plan to stay safe while home alone by hiring a bodyguard from the Shinozama family. Watch out for that shark addict. Shaki personally visits Director Taku's office, demanding the truth. The top boss is forced to spill the beans. He confesses they almost caught Habaki, but just as victory was within reach, Hosoji vanished without a trace. Returning to Kaja's request, she wants the shrine guardian to summon Habaki's spirit and confront him. The resurrected Dathu immediately starts questioning the one who erased evidence of Hosoji's corpse. Even weakened, his stubbornness refuses to reveal his true identity. The man who wronged him was eliminated by Hosodu. Because of his stubbornness, the death god was forced to wield psychological manipulation against him. After being led astray, Habaki's soul confessed everything he worked for the bastards of Sabon, even revealing how he personally sacrificed his beloved daughter to that organization. Thanks to the power Ammon wielded on him, fragments of his dark past resurfaced. Every sin he committed was laid bare. Even Hosodo, who had contracted with the death god, witnessed these memories. They mirrored the death god's own recollections of being blackmailed by his father. Though sold to the Empire, this man shamelessly begged for money to buy food for the death god's mother and sister. When the death god reached for his coin, the beast stabbed him in the back, a betrayal born from a twisted curse. This addict dared to stab his own son, obeying the kingdom's orders. He also admitted to having sold his entire family just to feed his addiction. Connected to the corpulent Habaki in this world, the death god decided to squeeze out more information by summoning stakes to pierce Habaki's vile soul. Memories flooded back, being betrayed by his father for the second time in life. The holy maidens of the cult had cast a spell, destroying the soul embedded in the very blade that the death god had just unleashed. This dire fate was only averted because his master fought tooth and nail, trying every method to save the brain of his dying disciple. Yet Iselit pretended it was just an experiment on his failing student. Only when the true emperor pleaded with the master to absorb the curse and poison from his apprentice's brain did things shift. But even then, Ilis twisted the truth, revealing her witchy nature. Yet above all the death, God was heartbroken, fearing that after becoming an undead, his close friend would lose his green soul. But for the emperor, the death god remained a trusted ally of the empire. Because of the friends he once treasured, and for the sanctity of human life, no one was allowed to toy with another's existence. Just as Amen was about to deal the final blow to Habaki's soul, a familiar figure stopped him. It was none other than the death god's close friend, the leader of the Kaja Empire, accompanied by his assistant, both stunned to see the cloak bearing the empire's emblem. Even the red-haired young man standing beside the death god sensed something intriguing unfolding at the Subak police station. Sabaki was apologizing to Team 3 for dragging them into Hoso's case. Aside from some teasing from Black Hair, the others were unharmed. Just then, the wise old man, Tajia, arrived, dragging himself back from a meeting. They guessed the media had started sniffing around Habaki's case and advised Sabaki to lay low for a while. None knew that Habaki had not only logged out, but that his soul had been tortured mercilessly, so the team remained on high alert. Meanwhile, the death god was shocked when his friend voluntarily appeared the emperor from another world, ready to handle the matter for his comrade, and to casually check on the death god's realm. The emperor mentioned other members waiting to be summoned by the death god, but now wasn't the time to unleash the whole empire to wreak havoc. Yet he promised that when the moment came, the death god would act. Kaya was eager to catch wind of this fresh breeze, but even Min was unsure if their friend should be here. After speaking, the emperor erected a protective barrier around Kaja and his assistant, preparing to dive into the story of Habaki's tormented soul. A flashback showed the emperor leading the death god down a tunnel, presenting a grotesquely deformed creature writhing in agony. The unfortunate victim was none other than the death god's depraved father. The emperor personally ended the man's suffering, avenging his friend. Now everything remained the same. The death god was poised to extinguish Habaki's soul, himself unwilling to dirty his own hands. According to the death god, this was also why the emperor was assassinated. His many enemies bore grudges too deep. The viewers could almost feel Habaki's soul vanish completely. Suddenly, the city brimmed with mysterious, thrilling events, sparking the death god's curiosity, especially about his flamethrower nemesis and a compatriot from another world. Standing atop a rooftop, the death god vowed to forge a world where his friend's hands would remain pure. To achieve this, he knew he must plunge deeper into recent events. Meanwhile, the rabbit Lord Higo planned to lay low, hoping his past enemies would spare his life. But fate had other plans when a laser beam struck his finger, causing him to drop his phone. An old lady nearby picked it up, swiping through it like a pro, unaware that Higo had fallen into a trap set by the flamethrower at their base. Elsewhere, the death. God's comrades nursed their wounds after a brawl with Momo. They didn't blame Lei for hiding earth-shattering secrets. Instead, if Lei were accidentally turned into a shark by the Shinojama Corporation, Sazo might just propose on the spot. Sazo hugged Lei, thanking him for his silent sacrifices. Kuju, however, was dragged by boss Carissa to a bar for an impromptu ritual, or rather treatment, by the death god's organization's doctor. While standing gloomily nearby, Hosodo called on Anmin for help with one last task. The grizzled detective wanted to know why Kaya had sent someone to end Habaki's life. Kisa revealed all she knew, thanks to an insider in the police department. Tajia's gratitude to Kaja stemmed from the fact that his wife was once saved by Kaja's grandfather. Still, he wanted Shaki and Team 3 to walk the righteous path. Blonde-haired Amen assigned duties for the team to review security camera footage and gather intel on those connected to the corrupt cop and the policeman shot in the head. Shaki's goal was to create a safe haven where Hoso no longer had to hide underground. Now he was a pen no less. Meanwhile, the death god wished Kaya would speak honestly to her lover, despite her defiance of Hoso's wishes and her continuation of her grandfather's brokerage legacy. Caught by boss Carissa, she's dragged to the bar to be sacrificed. Oops, I meant to be treated by the organization's doctor, who stands nearby battling his own despair. Hoso, in a twist of fate, asks her for help with something crucial. The unfortunate inspector wants to know why Kaja sent someone to take Habaki's life. Kisa reluctantly spills all the information she has, revealing that it was boss Toji who alerted Kaja, while he was chasing after Habaki, fulfilling a debt of gratitude to Kaja's grandfather for saving his wife. Yet he still hopes Sharky and Team 3 will find the right path. The blonde-haired warrior divides tasks among team members to check security cameras, gathering more intel on those connected to the dirty cop and the officer who suffered a gunshot wound. Shaki's goal is to create a sanctuary where Hoso no longer needs to hide in the shadows. But now, Hoso has become a mere pawn, while the organization still wishes for Kaja to express something to her beloved, despite having defied Hoso's wishes and continuing her grandfather's legacy as a broker. Kaja yearns to tell him she loves him deeply. Meanwhile, Sub-Key at the station is eager to continue working with the eccentric Solity, who has just brought him a hen he managed to round up, although the King of Con has no idea who he is and gets caught. After wrapping things up, the organization regroups with teammates. He plans to transform Kudugia into a zombie to relieve his pain, but as long as he's still breathing, Kudugia doesn't want to become a mindless teammate. Witnessing friends nearly getting knocked out only strengthens the resolve of the organization. On the interrogation team's side, Solity showcases his extraordinary deduction skills to analyze the situation, having prepared for the possibility of being swept away by the river if he guessed wrong. However, he catches the scent of blood on Higo, indicating he isn't entirely innocent. Higo tries to appeal to the King of Con's pride, claiming he doesn't harm innocent civilians, but unfortunately for him, the King of Con destroys that notion himself by taking the lead. The stronger the storm, the sharper the senses. On the other side, Solity's interrogation team unveiled their masterstroke, the legendary Turtle's intuition at work, analysing every shadow. He had prepared for the worst, expecting to be trapped if his guess was wrong. Yet beneath it all, Solity caught the iron scent of blood on Higo, proving this man wasn't entirely innocent. Higo aimed straight at the Kingpin's pride, the vow never to harm innocents, but fate twisted cruelly when the Kingpin shattered that oath by capturing the general for a cheap stunt that sent countless stock prices plummeting like dropped pants. The commander made a joke that sent the stocks of numerous companies plummeting, much like Tuck's brother's pants falling down. Just then, he received news that the monster Solity had infiltrated the police station. Not only that, but the Divine Spirit Group had just endured 82 calamities, leaving Lei Yi with a severed arm. Despite his usual disdain for his little brother, he had to admit that their enemies were formidable. To top it off, there was another juicy tidbit of news. Lei Wei still hesitated to trust Shishinden, so he declined their offer to open up. The moment his soul's colour revealed he was Mr. Ran's bodyguard, Shishinden knew they'd found a potential ally. To win him over, they challenged Lei Wei to a duel, but knowing he was still green, Shishinden sent only a two-headed tiger to spar with him. While Lei Wei faced this test, Shishinden shared a heavy secret with Mr. Ran. The more truths you reveal, the farther peace drifts away. Yet silence comes at a steep price, one that cuts deep. Caught up in their talk, no one noticed the tiger nearly knocking Lei Wei unconscious. Shishinden had to call it off just in time. Later, as Lei Wei washed away the dust of battle, he felt the vast power gap between them. He finally accepted Shishinden's help to become less useless for the fights ahead. But first, he demanded to know the real name of the fake boy. The Master of Secrets introduced himself, Shishinden. While Lei Wei was lost in thought, Shishinden seized the moment to rebuild his robotic arm. Lei Wei's heart skipped when he saw a limb covered in shimmering scales. Hold on, friend, that arm wasn't just any prosthetic. It was forged from the mighty electric dragon's own body. This was Shishinden's ace, a gift to recruit Lei Wei into his central circus troupe. The dragon had once entrusted its remains to Shishinden's master Eyeless, agreeing to a 200 million year pact to avoid being a puppet of reckless fools. What better legacy than to lend its power to the one who'd sent it to the grave? The dragon allowed Shishinden to mold its body as he wished, and now it beat within the limbs of a trusted comrade. Meanwhile, below, Sao was relentlessly teasing Ku's brain, comparing shark movies to the vampire genre. After an intense analysis, she declared the author probably was a shark themselves. Enough with the chatter, someone muttered. But behind that joke lay a hint Saro wanted the group to test which new powers Misaki had gained. Although transformed into a vampire, Misaki remained unafraid of sunlight and didn't need to feed on blood much, like Shishinden's recent exchange of gemstone tubes. Hold on, friend, the arm gifted by the divine god temple isn't just any limb. It's the arm of a colossal electric dragon. This was the prize the temple used to recruit Lei Yi into their central circus. The electric dragon once asked Master Eyeless of the temple to buy its remains before agreeing to a 200-year pact. The dragon didn't want careless fools invading his jade body, so what better legacy than to entrust it to the one who sent him to the grave, the divine god temple. Now, this dragon's arm has become a part of a trustworthy ally for the temple's future. Below Sao keeps tormenting Kudu, comparing shark movies with Yakuza films. After some analysis, she guesses the author is probably a shark himself. Enough with the chatter, she snaps, but the hint behind her words is clear. Saro wants the group to check what new powers Misaki has. Though now a vampire, Misaki fears neither sunlight nor blood-sucking, almost as if the divine god temple just swapped her blood for a gem to upgrade her species. Back to recruiting members Lei, Yi finally accepts the illusion fruit, symbolizing the temple's sincerity, but he's distracted by the shark wagging its tail beside him. By the way, Ran reveals the shark is Boka, and since merging with it, Lei Yi seems happier than ever. Watching how Lei Yi greets the young master, you can feel the jealousy boiling inside him. Meanwhile, the divine god temple focuses on those tied to the imperial badge, investigating Soliti's true identity at the warehouse where the fire-spitting bug just caught a ruffian by the neck. The bug shares his goal is to hunt down. No original subtitle between 0207-1979 and 0207-43 in provided text, combined with previous segment. No original subtitle between 0207-40.360 and 028040 in provided text, combined with previous segment. He reveals to King Bip that the targets he's hunting are closely linked to the illusionary fruits Lazada, and that Soliti is also after. Soliti notices a certain figure at the center of recent demon activity disasters involving them, including the assistant's sister to the blonde-haired man who is spying on what the boss is so intently studying. Upon hearing Shaki's investigation into the fire-spitting bug's conflict with Hibaki's organization, the assistant's expression turns suspicious. But this time, Shaki isn't messing around like usual, because he's uncovered proof that the fire-spitting bug has been around for a long time. Back at the Spirit God's Hall workspace, somehow, the mysterious mage CVW and 2 attendants have tracked down Makoto's workplace. While queuing, Makoto suddenly feels a flutter in his heart, like the first time he went out with Cruz. Out of nowhere, a young man appears and starts chatting with the 3 of them. This is Makoto, a superstitious guy who's come here 3 times to ask the Spirit God's Hall to help lift his curse. He's obsessed with the Spirit God's Hall and introduces the supernatural happenings around this building. The video clip even features Soliti, but Makoto just thinks he's dancing with his arms in some silly show. His clueless words make CVW burst out laughing before stepping in to talk with Makoto, introducing himself to the mage. CVW then searches Makoto's name online and discovers that his new acquaintance is a legit forensic expert working for the police, explaining his frequent absences to visit the Spirit God's Hall for fortune-telling. This revelation shocks Tsubaki to his core. Meanwhile, others are just as shocked to find that the scribbling pen on the desk belongs to Inspector Hoso. Lei is surprised because last time he misunderstood Soliti's visit as meeting a benefactor. Now that the chit-chat is over, Lei returns to the kitchen to cook dinner. The Spirit God's Hall happily prepares for the next client, but suddenly senses a terrifying pressure. Standing before him is a figure shrouded by countless cursed spirits, their numbers probably exceeding 1 million. More chillingly, most of these souls exhibit a desperate craving, clinging to the red-haired young man. The Spirit God's Hall uses magic to mask his terrified expression. Kujiya also senses something off from the guest as the Spirit God's Hall's eyes tremble. CBW's purpose is to confirm who the Spirit God's Hall really is, to understand why guards are constantly stationed around him. The first question CBW asks is about the link between him and the notorious conman Soli. Nearby, Higo fiddles with his laptop, preparing to disrupt the online community. He's uninterested in the conversation and just wants his phone back. Sadly, the fire-spitting bug has burned the phone and interrogates Soliti about Sabon. The meaning behind the names Hihuzo and Sabon remains unclear, as Solity only acts on orders. Suddenly, Solity hatches a wild idea to extract more info about Sabin. Back at the fortune-telling scene, CVW shares stories of friends who made enemies spanning centuries, causing him to be relentlessly hunted. The spirit god's hall wants to help, sensing a situation much like his own. But CVW insists the damned pursuers must be driven crazier, so when the time comes to strike, he won't feel regret. The spirit god's hall tries to reason with this dangerous man, but since he's slaughtering his own clan, all with justification, sympathy is impossible. Hearing this, the spirit god's hall can no longer feel pity for CVW, because those innocent children caught in his wake were good souls, not immature like him. The spirit god's hall uses magic to correct CVW's twisted mindset. The cursed spirits surrounding the red-haired youth try to resist, but Min manages to pierce CVW's soul with a skeletal hand. A strange sensation surges through CVW's body, thrilling him, confirming that the fortune teller before him is no ordinary man. He wants to verify again, but just as the spirit god's hall prepares another strike, CVW's companion bursts in, warning their boss of danger. The spirit god's hall immediately recognizes this girl as accompanied by a high-level spirit, just like an old acquaintance of Makoto's, the Empire's Prime Minister, who once encouraged him when he was a rookie. CVW has no choice but to leave, trusting the warning from the spirit within Lulu. The spirit god's hall can't figure out how to restrain the dangerous man before him and can only watch. But the drama escalates. CVW's entire group just arrives when Lady Luke Dien is suddenly struck in the stomach by Taibei's palm. The spirit god's hall's nightmare is on the path to ambush them. Kocho wonders if today will bring any juicy intel, but then spots Taibei outside her building. Her brother Tako orders subordinates to watch Kocho closely so she doesn't interfere with his work. But as they step into the building, a chilling unease makes Kocho shiver. The spirit, God's hall's passengers, emerge like soulless bodies spiking Taibei's tension. He rushes to check the situation, but is intercepted by Misaki, who stalls him with chatter. While Misaki distracts Kocho, the guard suddenly spots an enemy and lunges, striking the foe into the wall before they can react. Taibei's urgency is because this attacker targeted the guards around the spirit god's hall's building. Lady Lukdian also senses something strange. She acted professionally, but still got caught. The reason Bao standing across the street explains to Takeo that the scent on the assassin's clothes clings to Soja's body, combined with Taibei's sharper nose, made it easy to spot the enemies. The attacker hasn't spoken a word, charging in with fists first, due to his bloodthirsty nature. The battle between Taibei and Lady Lukdian erupts, throwing everyone into chaos, a brutal clash that shakes the very air around them. In the midst of this tense moment, the teammates of the Spirit God Hall stand alert. Calm as ever, Spirit God relies on Misaki to carry Kei out of the building. Meanwhile, Sivyu, who was casually watching a movie, receives a crucial message. Seizing the moment as Taibei is distracted by the camera flash of reporter Sivyu, rushes forward like a swift gale, unleashing a magic-infused strike that sends Taibei reeling to the side. The fluidity and mastery of magic displayed by Sivyu instantly paint a familiar picture for Spirit God, a figure from his past, none other than the top-ranked royal mage, Ios Sabin. Memories flood back of when Spirit God's master Ilis recognized Sabin as a prodigy, the only one capable of effortlessly stealing mana from spirits to fuel himself. For ordinary people, such power would twist their bodies into ruins and explode. Despite his talent, Sabin always yearned to be like Spirit God, favored by both spirits and witches. As the confrontation unfolds, Sivyu thinks it's time to quiet down the chaos, disturbing the fortune-teller's workspace. He hands men a necklace adorned with rare jewels as compensation for the scuffle. Spirit God intends to refuse, but Taibei jumps up, hurling a knife towards Sivyu's group. Sebon catches it deftly, using it to tend his wounds, which heal immediately. This terrifying regeneration sparks Spirit God's realization these are the abilities of the Empire's assassination squad. Sivyu surprisingly calm after all that watches Spirit God's clever maneuvers unfold. After Spirit God's crafty evasion, they all embrace and flee through a window. The storm has passed, and only now does Ku dare to show his face and ask about the situation. Spirit God confirms Kivyu's identity undeniably, those rogue spawn being hunted by the fire-spewing insects. This conclusion comes from their magic style, and a face hauntingly similar to Sabon's, though Sivyu's features remain youthful and their soul colours differ. On their way back, X keeps grumbling about being a party pooper, but the real reason for Sivyu's sudden escape lies in his passport bearing the name Sabon. The elders in their organisation are obsessed with a viral video posted by the eccentric Soliti starring none other than the young man Higo, who asks viewers about those rogue spawn. This clip, a cleverly edited montage by the notorious King Biep, features a famous singer and has even sparked curiosity from the original star. As for the deal involving the jewel-encrusted necklace given to Spirit God, it's actually not a loss for Sivyu. Spirit God recently discovered that the shark boy Boykar was taken by the group of the red-haired youth Loot. Sivyu doesn't truly know Boykar's identity, but took him along because during their conversation, the spirit inside El sensed a connection to the shark beside the fortune teller. This led Sivyu to believe that this shark might be a tool from Spirit God's world to communicate with him. The mystical turtle spirit seemed to confirm this half-guess. To protect Boykar from the fire-spewing enemies, Sivyu handed him over to El. Back at Spirit God's base, Ku and Dujia are panicked. Their crucial teammate has been kidnapped. Spirit God dispatches a scout to trace Sivyu and his gang's movements. They still haven't uncovered Boykar's true identity, but must devise a way to reclaim the precious Rick kit. Just then, Ko also arrives with Tai B apologising for the monkey's reckless behaviour that stirred trouble. The tension is high and the stakes even higher. Every move could mean the difference between rescue and ruin. In this world, where magic and mystery entwine, alliances are fragile, and trust is a rare gem. As the characters navigate this perilous path, we're reminded that sometimes survival hinges not on strength alone, but on the bonds forged in the heat of battle and the courage to face the unknown. To ease the tension, Dot led the way, giving Bay a break from the constant chatter. Takadu was sent to speak with Thithandian to clear up the misunderstanding. Meanwhile, Four-Eyed Anne was tasked with having the old fortune teller uncover the enemy's identity. Before heading to Thithandian's office, Takadu showed the chilling video clip of Soliti, the notorious trickster king in the warehouse, who was equally thrilled that his masterpiece was trending at the top. Yet Higo maintained his calm demeanour. With steady poise, Higo questioned why his own face was plastered all over the answer. What he received in return was chilling. The trickster king wanted the children of the organisation to see. It startled them. If Higo truly belonged to that group, it would send them into a frenzy. But if it was all a misunderstanding, then so be it. Even so, Soliti's reckless ignorance forced even the usually composed Higo to shout out loud. Yet Higo quickly regained his calm. He confessed honestly to Bofun Lua that he was just a low-level runner for the organisation, completely uninvolved in the century-old case that had dragged Bofun Lua to this desperate state. S. Chuamai briefly explained Bofun Lua's backstory to his younger brother. She also planned to use this chaotic moment to bring Lei back home. Bofun Lua revealed that his true self no longer exists. What remains here is only the hatred from a past life. At Police Station Team 3, led by Sub Baki, the truth about the disaster, named Bofun Lua, was almost within reach. Shaki believed it wasn't by chance that Bofun Lua chose fire as his symbol. Thanks to assistant Kaj Kusa bringing in documents from the century-old case, the pieces began to fall into place. This was the case that burned 16 men and women alive in linked cells, over half of them children. Yet no one had ever heard of this horrifying tragedy. The team leader asked the others to continue searching through old magazines for clues, while he and Oz planned to capture Higo and get the full story. But looking at An Ji Den, his spirit seemed unstable. Watching how he struggled to control his emotions, the whole team thought he looked like a freaky lion dancer. The reason Higo's video clip had hit An Ji Den right in the feels. Thithandian was trying to figure out why the madman Soliti spread the name Sabon so widely. The real orphans would normally be more cautious if exposed, but there was no plan here. Thithandian promised to report back to Taksu in 3 days, yet he suspected the old man was trying to dig up information about his mother Canon from foreigners. They all agreed to meet again in 3 days before dispersing. Takkeo ordered Bao to monitor Thithandian's movements and sent Zonmoji to follow the CVW group. Speaking of the Sivawa group, they were ambushed by the organization. With so much chaos, they wanted to arrest CVW and bring them in, but one attacker was immediately snapped back as if his joints were realigned, while nearby stones mysteriously levitated into the air. At Thithandian's base, Misaki planned to rescue Bokar after hearing the news, but according to men, they needed thorough preparation before facing the spirit-empowered Lulu, who was deadly. Anyone aiming a gun at her got a spike shoved in their mouth by her spirit. A brutal showdown unfolded before the CVW group until all attackers were wiped out. Lulu was feeling downhearted, guilt-ridden over the lives lost in her rampage with Lord Spirit. Hearing her teammate moan for hours, CVW comforted her, saying it was thanks to Lulu's pleading that the others were only seriously injured and not dead. The attack from within the organization was because they feared CVW would leak information to Bofu and Lua, who had dragged the entire group overseas, only to now have Bofu and Lua hot on their heels, a truly unlucky break. For CVW, whose motto was arrive and fight, the plan was to lure Bofu and Lua into one spot to clean house all at once. The warehouse situation was looking more relaxed as Higo switched from being a victim to turning into the town gossip. Curious about why Solity the Madman showed up at Thithandian's building and whether those giant hands floating in the clip were a trick by the trickster, King Solity dodged questions. But according to Thoda Higo, the trickster King's reckless fun had turned Solity into the center of all chaos. In Shinjuku, Higo warned that next time an assassin knocks no puppet could save your life at Momo Hospital. G, meanwhile, was quietly suppressing pain but smiling just because he saw Higo's hilarious clip. He was ready to forgive the scaredy cat for abandoning him, though he was a bit jealous for missing the chance to get an idol's autograph. Meanwhile, Mai approached Bao's guard post to greet Lei's family. Bao tried to send a message to Takez, but was stopped by little Shimchua. Surprisingly, the one caught in the chicken trap was Marji, who got handcuffed by Bao. Bad luck for Marji, but she found the only relative in the clan who cared about her little brother. While the clan gathered to decide Lei's fate after his first mission left him crippled, some uncles were arguing heatedly. One had half his jaw chopped off, another was cosplay Dunqua after losing an arm in a fight. Because of the clan's cruelty, Bao felt grateful to Ma Didi for freeing her brother. But the battle to become Lei's sister would wait for the next life. With that settled, the two strongest of the clans prepared to fight for that honor while Lei dived into gem research with Thithandian, gearing up for the upcoming massive combat. Thithandian planned to inform Jan about Boise's kidnapping, but Sukna was hospitalized that day, so the news hadn't reached Lei yet. Feeling guilty for failing his old man Lei's attitude was met with men's blunt warning not to speak nonsense. Thithandian knew Lei always wanted to kick Boise out of the spotlight to become Ran's favoured son. Out of options, Lei opened up about his jealousy towards Boyka not sharing blood with their old man and his torment over his own selfishness. Yet men didn't judge, knowing even Lei's flawed father sold him out for money and later stabbed him due to his own greed. That's why Thithandian always envied those with genuine family bonds. The fight drifted far afield, some lost half their lower jaw, others cosplay as tigers after losing an arm to a slash. Because of the family's cruelty, Bao feels grateful to Ma Didi for freeing his younger brother. But to become Lei's older sister, that's a story for the next life. With that thought, the two strongest from their clans prepared to brawl over the right to lead. Luai's sister is busy with her own struggles, while his cousin is still deep in research on the precious stones and the Divine Arena preparing for the upcoming grand combat. The Divine Arena planned to inform Jan that Boise was kidnapped, but Sukna ended up in the hospital on that very day, delaying the warning to Luai. It's in this moment that Luai feels the weight of guilt toward Father Ran for failing his responsibilities, while the attitude from M is cold, almost like, just stop with the lies already. The Divine Arena knows Luai always wanted to claim the precious stones and push Boise out of the spotlight to take the favoured son's place in Ran's eyes. With no other choice, Luai pours out his deepest feelings, his jealousy of Boise, who isn't even his blood, and his own biting guilt over selfishness. But Amen doesn't judge. After all, even Louis's own rotten father sold him out for money and later betrayed him with his own hands. That's why the Divine Arena always envies those blessed with real family bonds. He senses the genuine affection from Lawai and Father Ran, and advises his comrade to cherish those bonds above all. And Men himself vows to build a peaceful world to protect the ones he treasures. Meanwhile, Takadu has to summon Lemon, gearing up for the intense battle looming in 3 days. Back at the Divine Arena's base, the Ku family keeps watch on Gan day and night, monitoring the moves of major players. The biggest headache, none other than Soliti the Cheap Saint's family and his rookie minions. Everyone at the police station is convinced it's the trickster king behind the chaos, but only Sub-Key thinks otherwise. To him, these antics are senseless and meaningless, not quite like the notorious Soliti. Subak believes the only person who could impersonate the Cheap Saint is Desert Eskinema. The criminal actually showed up trying to fool Soliti with a dance, but the real masterminds behind these tricks are the Sorcerers Group. They came to meet Idol and revealed to Soliti the true symbol of the Divine Empire. While Soliti was doodling away, Misaki approached asking about the friend, and Men summoned Kaja, who clearly appeared as an emperor not summoned by magic. And Men, following his master's teaching, believes that every friend who steps into his life, no matter how briefly, deserves respect. The Divine Arena senses that the 3 carrying Boy C were likely aided by someone from another dimension like Kaya. This is no ordinary rescue. It's a crossing of worlds, a connection beyond fate. However, Misaki encourages Men, reminding him that since his arrival, everything he's done has been positive. Despite knowing each other for so long, this is the first time they've heard such honesty. The group unites to reclaim Rick Kit's misfortune from the thieves. Meanwhile, the red-haired youth is stunned by the Thief King's calmness. After all, levitating objects is just a parlor trick he's seen at home. So Soliti decides to showcase some skills to prove a point. Meanwhile, the twin duo from Team 3 find the house where a terrifying accident occurred a century ago. Strangely, a merchant bought this house for a hefty price and refurbished it meticulously. Ace himself doesn't understand what this has to do with Soliti, whom Team 3 pursues. But according to Subak's sixth sense, the Fire Spitter and the Thief King are collaborating, so their investigation starts here, before accepting cooperation with CVW, the Madman. Soliti wants to see if CVW can survive the Fire Spitter's wrath. In a flash, the Fire Spitter's minions gather ready to torch Saba Ramon's illegitimate offspring. The Thief King ducks into a corner, dodging stray fire in this deadly showdown. But CVW isn't one to be bullied. With a single strike, he blasts the flames away. CVU struggles to unlock new magic, while confiding in the Fire Spitter. He learns the root of this disaster. The Fire Spitter relentlessly pursues his organization to burn them alive, because CV's family experimented on 18 subjects, implanting special powers. 16 of them perished together, leaving only 2 survivors. These 2 survivors began a plan to rebuild their family and create more fighters using psychological manipulation on innocents to increase their ranks. Both sides have their agendas, so CVW challenges the Fire Spitter to a real battle. But handsome as he is, CVW isn't foolish. He retreats as soon as he realizes he can't win, preparing a new strategy. Poor Soliti is left behind, captured by CVW's group and questioned. The red-haired youth wants to understand the Thief King's relationship with the fortune teller who was present at that building. However, if the madman was so easily caught like a chicken, he wouldn't have earned the notorious title of Thief King. Soliti performs a few illusions to escape the burly men, leaving behind some baffling messages before vanishing without a trace. More importantly, Soya and Lulu recognize their boss, CVW's new abilities. Until now, he's only used magic to strengthen his body and mind because he's essentially a vessel for Archmage Adamisa Baman, who was born here. But X, the actual Archmage, hasn't manifested, so CVW is labelled by the organisation as Sabon's illegitimate child. Remember that. Once while chatting with the spirit god, you could see how he's now beginning to tap into a spark of his own magic. Somewhere deep in Thithandien's consciousness, he still yearns to return to a world where people use spells to punch each other in the face. If that's impossible, at least he wants to simulate that fierce magic battle right here. Just then, the convenience store contacts him to repay a debt to Sabajamon Fake. This is info from CVW. What CVW wants to uncover is the truth about Boy Ka and his mysterious mother, Canon. Meanwhile, the mage's tale wraps up and King Vip appears at another hotspot. A shadowy figure, someone whom the eccentric Saliti clearly expects much from, stands in the darkness. Over at Shaki's group and Team 3, they finally find the notes Elder H. Soji left records of suspicious details from the Great Fire 100 years ago. Both teams planned to sneak a peek inside, but unexpectedly the house manager stopped them, claiming they lacked the authority to proceed. So they had to retreat and study Soji's documents instead. Sheki is determined to take up Soji's mantle and expose the secret behind the name Sabon. Kaja's subordinates wonder what their role will be in the intense combat match tomorrow, yet Kaja insists the team should only observe, not jump into action, perhaps fearing they'll get caught in the crossfire of Thithan Dien's tricky magic. Still, they have to prepare something. Standing around munching popcorn won't cut it. Meanwhile, Tak Kez just got news that the red-haired gang fought Soliti's monster. But what really caught attention in the photo was the presence of the fire-spitting bug at the scene. So Four Eyes guessed could King Vip actually be the fire-spitting bug, a conclusion that hit home for Tak Kez. The Spirit Gods group is also gearing up before the scheduled meeting with Four Eyes. Misaki wonders what they'll do after Thithan Dien retakes the ill-fated Rick kit. Of course, her question is a sly way of asking to be unleashed to brawl with CVW's crew. Meanwhile, Le Yi has been training with the two-headed tiger to get used to new powers. Sazo wants to ask how to tell him apart from the real Boy Sa. The spirit god pauses, then realizes it's time to reveal his true name, even if it dredges up painful memories. Just as he's about to confess, he receives a signal Exogia and the strong woman Luc Dien have left their posts. Suddenly, the spirit god senses a massive pressure bearing down on their room, it's CVW arriving to greet all the teammates. Kudu's older brother is stunned. He'd been glued to the screen, unaware of any intruder. CVW knows the secret path to this building, and the red-haired young man's goal is to recruit someone from another world into his team. Thanks to info from the convenience store, CVW also knows that Canon, the spirit god's mother, is a descendant of the tribe bearing the spirit eye. The kidnapper of Boy Ka seems to have helped him uncover what he'd long missed, how on earth he reincarnated into Boy Ka's body, and what the true condition of reincarnation really is. The spirit god dives deeper into Boy Ka's memories and finds images of his late mother. Tears fall from the spirit god's eyes. He wonders if Canon found peace after crossing worlds. The key to activating reincarnation magic is merging souls with someone from your own tribe. That's why he's connected to Canon and Boy Ka, perhaps the soul of his lost younger brother from another realm. It seems the spirit god was just enlightened, and his determination to reclaim his lost brother blazes stronger than ever. For a moment, this unsettles CVW, who realizes Boy Ka might really be the shark he caught a few days ago. But it doesn't matter, because the red-haired youth also wants to team up with the spirit god to annihilate their shared enemy, the fire-spitting bug. Before deciding, the spirit god asks CVW directly if he's connected to the mage Adimai Sabamon. But CVW only has knowledge of this person, never having met him. That's why he's called the ill-fated child. During patrol, he was ordered to act independently when Sora appeared. The spirit god just declined his friendly offer because all he seeks is a peaceful life. Though CVW's organization worships Saba Zaman, they bear no responsibility toward idols at all. Hearing the spirit god compare himself to someone who abandoned him, CVW wants to test his strength a bit. Finally, the battle begins. The spirit god's skeletal arm grabs CVW from behind. Skeletons rise around, reminding CVW of a necromancer figure. At first, CVW thinks of Min's master, but the way he talks convinces him this must be the Empire's Royal Mage's fourth seat. This realization freezes the spirit god for 5 seconds. Coincidentally, Barchua Kocho is en route to the spirit god's location. Suddenly, 2 gods burst through the building's window. The fire-spitting bug stands ready on a rooftop, preparing to attack Lulu and Eso-Ra. But Shaki's Team 3 already anticipated this and greets the fire-spitting bug casually. The umbrella-holding brothers chat normally, making Subi and AX a bit suspicious. However, he's done extensive research on the documents left by Elder Soji, which Sabaki concluded that the surviving male and female from that cruel experiment are the source of today's fire-spitting bug. According to Dr. Makoto, it's a hypnosis technique implanting false memories into others. The 2 victims of the experiment have long since withered, but their consciousnesses were implanted into many people. At last, the fire-spitting bug drops the act and speaks kindly with the team leader. Though Sabaki knows they can't catch the fire-spitting bug, as it's just a lingering ideology. Team 3's goal remains to cuff the troublemaker, King Vip. Speaking of Solity, he's running on the rooftop, observing supernatural phenomena he's chased for ages. Both CVW and the spirit god keep colliding, forcing XOG to bring the group's princess into the fight. Meanwhile, the spirit god is baffled. CVU only knows how to enhance his body with magic, but the rest of his spells are still shaky. The conclusion. The surviving man and woman from that ruthless experiment are the origin of today's fire spitters. According to Domakoto, it was a hypnotic technique, implanting false memories in others. The two victims perished long ago, but their consciousness lives on scattered across many fire spitter hosts. Finally, the fire spitter drops the act and speaks civilly with the team leader. Sabaki knows they can't capture the fire spitter, it's just a lingering ideology. Still, Squad 3's goal remains to handcuff the trickster king, the troublemaker. Just as Solity is mentioned, he's seen running across rooftops, observing supernatural phenomena he's chased for so long. Both CVW and the Divine Arena clash repeatedly, forcing SG to ditch the weakling girl from the team and jump into battle. The Divine Arena is baffled because Spao only knows how to enhance his body with magic, while his other spells seem brand new, barely mastered. The red-haired youth tests a bit of M's power and thinks the Divine Arena's wish for peace sounds silly. Who, in their right mind with such power, would ask for something so small? But of course, the Divine Arena's dream is to create a safe haven for his brother and friends away from delusional power-hungry foes like CVW. Without hesitation, the Divine Arena summons two skeletal arms to choke CVW, but SG crushes both effortlessly. Just as the fight heats up, Lei Wai pulls SG away for a private chat. Meanwhile, little Lulu tries to help CVW with spirit magic, but is warned of danger. Then, Misaki arrives to reclaim an important comrade, while SIBU goes berserk. His frustration with the world fuels his desire to reshape it. With newfound power awakened, SIBU will force the Divine Arena to join his cause. Even the Divine Arena admits CVW is a genius. Just by observing, he created a massive fireball that engulfs the area. Yet, CVW still takes punches from the skeletal arms, and tries to convince the Divine Arena, learning that he is actually the assassin of the Emperor. CVW doesn't know where this info came from, but is excited to fight the Divine Arena. The battle between Luagi and the formidable Lukdian woman heats up, tension rising with every move. Ludian's attack style mirrors a two-headed tiger, but Lei Yi adapts with a strategy to counter. Against foes like the ghostly Maji or Lemon, he might be doomed, but not here. Suddenly, a hand wrapped in ice strikes from behind. Misaki leaps into battle to reclaim Boyka the shark. Already, a swarm of objects hover ominously, giving Kujujiya back home a headache just imagining the chaos. He wonders if he can even control this mess. Yet Kujujiya overhears the God of War's plan to unleash all his power to cleanse CVW Return Boy, Xie's body, and erase all traces of his own existence to protect his friends. In this moment, the Emperor, who is also the God of War's closest friend, logs off, revealing the shock the one responsible for this catastrophe is none other than our own Anmen. Though the God of War was controlled by a darker force, he wrestles with deep guilt over his mistakes. The Emperor's spirit holds no blame. Instead, the prince urges his friend to live on in his stead. But the Emperor's foolish friend and men is about to embark on a self-destructive path to save others. Back in the deadly battle, the God of War prepares to go all in, ready to teach this deluded youth a harsh lesson. Facing the keyboard, warrior Kujujiya, who has journeyed alongside the God of War, the latter can no longer ignore his teammates' naive declarations. Kujujiya connects the city's loudspeakers, beginning a scolding session for the teammate who tries to shoulder everything alone. He admits that, at first, the God of War's power truly terrified him, but in the end the God of War taught him and Misaki the true meaning of friendship. Kujujiya won't let the God of War vanish from their central circus without even a goodbye. With those words, the hacker plunges the entire area into darkness, shutting off power and public cameras, giving the God of War the freedom to unleash his true self. Now, CVW finally understands why Anmen can never become a villain. Their circus of clowns surrounds him. CVW had intended to take down the God of War's entire team first, but of course he must first step over a men's body. The god of war drops 2 handfuls of precious gems to summon 3 6-headed beasts fueled by magic power. Thanks to Kujujia's tactical brain, the god of war's hunger for battle awakens for himself and his comrades. CVW faces 3 ferocious monsters, including a fiery red-haired dragon. The god of war, using Boykei's influence, had bought these gems to boost his strength, but he miscalculated the money came from none other than Anmen, who gathered funds through teammates exchanging intel about Imperial badges for rewards, CVW himself. After all this, the truth unfolds, a web of friendship, betrayal, and sacrifice wrapped tightly around these warriors. The god of war's resolve deepens, not just to fight, but to protect those who stand by him. This clash is more than a battle. It's a crucible, forging bonds that transcend pain and power. In these fiery moments, anime reveals not just epic combat, but the heartbeats of souls intertwined in fate. As the fierce battle with the dragon raged on, tragic victims began to appear around both sides. CVW realized that no matter how much they tried to hide, the overwhelming number of players logging out would reveal everything. This was the unmistakable signature of a rookie player. All the bodies here were Spirit Corps members. The Guild of the Death God had evacuated everyone from the area, and CVW had just fallen into a deadly trap. A colossal rookie chicken standing firm in the territory of the Death God Guild. Now, the Death God Guild could unleash their full power without fearing innocent bystanders getting caught in the crossfire. The dragon began to breathe fire directly at Civil the Mage, while Kisa's team blocked any forces that might interfere with men's fight. CVW was no easy foe. One strike sliced the dragon into pieces. For CVW, the holy mark was a symbol of humiliation. He yearned only for a peaceful life. But the Death God Guild ignored this. He knew there were stronger, greater beings out there, yet even they longed for peace. Even when his mind was manipulated by enemy soul manipulators, and his friend was betrayed like a pawn, the character he mentioned still called the Death God Guild, his dear friend. Listening to this tale, curiosity about that character grew, but CVW didn't have to wait long. After a long time gathering magical energy, Men finally summoned his dear friend to join the fight. CVW couldn't believe his eyes, because what he knew was that the Death God Guild was the assassin who killed the Empire's emperor. Not just the emperor, but the top members of the Empire had all signed contracts with the Death God Guild before their end. Now began the full-scale war of a genius and Mean's powerful allies. Everyone took up their roles to both kick out the deluded foe and protect the city. Nearby, Solity and the Firespitter debated what to do. The Firespitter planned to burn down the entire city and the mages to prevent future disasters, but the spirit of Suzuka appeared pleading with him to let her savior handle this. Sabaki's group also pleaded with the Firespitter, warning him, even if he was burned, as a warning to free the innocent manipulated by the enemy. They trusted Sabaki's team to handle the wild beasts of Sabaramon. If needed, Shaki was ready to let the Firespitter transfer his consciousness into her body. The fierce battle between 2 women for Rick Kit's fate reached a thrilling peak. No one understood why that reckless lunatic risked everything over a stuffed animal. If Misaki failed to reclaim Bo-C, their entire bond from meeting until now would shatter. Without hesitation, Misaki charged, but was cut off by a signpost. Luckily, thanks to the vampire's power, she remained unscathed. The delicate Misaki was shocked as El's spirit cleared the surrounding stones to block the lunatic's advance. In a brief moment of distraction, Boyka the shark broke free and leapt into the sky, aiming for Misaki to catch him. The one who earlier pushed Sora out was Lemon. Somehow he sneaked in to fight alongside Lei Wai, the powerful woman from the Guild of the Death God. After dodging Lemon's punch, Lei immediately recognized the disaster he brought. She gathered her strength for a decisive fight, but Lemon acted first. His new power easily sent Sora flying across the building. Now only the last 2 titans remained locked in battle. El's spirit began to transform, causing earthquakes to ripple through the city. Meanwhile, the Death God Guild's leader was busy tending to the genius mage, leaving the team to handle the chaos. CVW and 2 other mages fought fiercely against Ajay Maihang Xbei. With every strike, CVW grew stronger. After all the turmoil, Lei Yi set aside her selfishness and rushed to help. Misaki rescued Bo-C and tossed him to CVW, who caught him mid-air. Suddenly, a truck hurtled toward Misaki, propelled by a spirit. Miraculously, she transformed the vehicle into fluttering butterflies, her own surprise at this power clear. Lei Yi marvelled, unaware a stone was about to fall on his head. Luckily, a sage shattered the rock with chains saving him. The stones hovered and slowly descended, but were controlled by an elderly woman who was delighted to meet her kin here. She had saved Lei Wai and agreed to a temporary truce with Mai. CVW was shocked that the spirits were being controlled by someone. Now he had to solve the mess he caused alone. CVW summoned a magical formation like the one Ajma used for his final assault. Now he could face a power capable of tearing the city apart. Only the Death God Guild's dear friend, summoned with a reluctant emperor's help, could turn the tide. They shared a heartfelt moment before the battle's fate was decided. A stunning, magical blast from the emperor blew away Civil's divine power. Just before logging out, CVW felt content. While Shaki showed her resolve, Arison punched her, shaking her out of emotional overwhelm. The fire spitter acknowledged Shaki's determination and decided to free everyone. He would continue watching Shaki's team from afar. Once free, all those manipulated returned to normal. Even the girl standing with Solity asked for an idol's autograph. The spirits who had spoken vanished. The biggest surprise, Sisik Su was still alive and not sent to watch the naked chicken. The Death God Guild repaired the damaged zombie enemy and chose to save CVW instead of controlling him. Men wanted to repay the leftover treasure from the jewel ring and the holy mark. He saw CVW as an innocent boy passionate about magic, while CVW was a Simcon king. The final battle ended, ushering a hopeful future for the Death God Guild and their precious comrades. This marked the end of Season 1. If you enjoyed this journey, please give us a like and subscribe. It fuels our passion to create even better videos. Right before his final moment, Seaview feels a calm satisfaction. Shaki shows his determination only to get punched by Anra-Den, a wake-up call for letting emotions cloud his judgment. Even the fire spitter recognizes Shaki's resolve and decides to free everyone. He plans to keep watching Shaki's squad from afar a little longer. Once freed from manipulation, everyone returns to normal. The girl standing with Solity asks for Idol's autograph, but the wandering spirit who spoke earlier has vanished. The biggest surprise Visu hasn't been taken for the naked chicken viewing yet. The Divine Arena repairs the damaged body of the undead enemy and chooses to save CVW instead of controlling him. And Men wants to return the leftover wealth from the precious stone ring and holy mark. He sees CVW as an innocent boy passionately exploring magic. Meanwhile, Men is a seasoned warrior. The final battle ends here, opening a hopeful future for the Divine Arena and his precious comrades.